Government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to the idea that Los Angeles and what am I doing here? For two reasons. One, let's be clear. I hear it all the time. Cumulative, after I can play for the programs many times over.
Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
Welcome back to another night of Shtick with Koolfrogg. It's gonna be a good night. I got a bunch of fun stuff to actually go over. America Shirts is supposed to actually join me tonight. You know how to actually get him here? Chant. Make sure that you chant for America Shirts. He will eventually show up if that's the case. All that being said, really seriously, you can see it says fighter jets for everyone. It seems like everyone's just, they're like, oh, Joe Biden said the only way to take over a country is to have F-16 fighter jets. So, being that we're giving fighter jets to Turkey, everybody else should also want fighter jets. So that way we can all take to the sky together and have lots of fun while we're at war. I don't get it. I really don't. There you go. First one up. Moody heads to France. Deals for fighter jets and submarines expected. Fighter jets. Everybody gets fighter jet. Yay! Just really, really ridiculous. What's up, Daisy Girl? Beautiful. Divinity and Vicky. Good to see y'all. Glad you're all here. What's up, Moose? Cheesecake. Cheesecake. What the flock? How are you doing? Good to see you. Boomer's over on the Rumble side. I want to fight a jet. Yes, dogfighting would be so much fun if we all had fighter jets. Everybody gets fighter jet. Everybody gets to screw around. Cougar knife. Hello. Good to see you. Glad you're here. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. Say whatever you'd like. We'll try actually answering any questions or thoughts or opinions that you actually have, and we'll see how much fun we actually have tonight. The Indian leader who attended the Bastille Day parade is a guest of honor and discusses purchase of Rafale warplanes and the Scorpion vessels. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to embark on a 2-day visit to France, where he's expected to announce deals worth an estimated $10 billion for the purchase of 26 fighter jets and 3 submarines. He will be the guest of honor at the Bastille Day parade in Paris on Friday, when units from the Indian Army, Navy, and Air Force will participate in the event. It's a rare honor for Moody, as France does not routinely invite foreign dignitaries to annual celebration, which marks the key event of the French Revolution in 1789. Why they would actually go... What's up, Suzanne? Good to see you, dear. Why they would actually go to the point of actually inviting the Indian nation to actually join them is really kind of strange. To me, it's mind-boggling why you would want to invite some other country to your own revolution party. I guess if you feel comfortable with that, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to give a bunch of those airplanes that they see flying overhead right to them. The Prime Minister's visit holds a significance in France and India for celebrating 25 years of strategic partnership this year. It'll be the Moody's third visit to France, having previously traveled to the country in 2015 and 2022. It is the second time that the Indian Premier has been the guest of honor at the parade after Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2009. So it's kind of a ongoing. Let's go ahead. Let's invite the Indian people over to our country. We can have some fun. We can have a little party. Do the parade. We give you a couple gifts. You go home. You use those gifts against other people. Indian and French troops will march side by side in a military parade in the Champs Elysees in Paris. The French embassy in New Delhi, in a press release, Moody is expected to arrive in Paris on Thursday and will address the Indian community in the scene musicale. On Friday p.m., will attend the dinner hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron at the Louvre. At the Louvre. On Friday, the Prime Minister is scheduled to take part in a meeting between Indian and French CEOs. Emmanuel Bone, a diplomatic advisor of Macron, visited New Delhi last week to finalize a bilateral agenda and discuss the possible outcomes of the visit. On Saturday, Moody will leave Paris and head to Abu Dhabi, where he will hold talks with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. What the heck is that? That's an awful long name. Sheikh. We'll just call you Sheikh from now on. I think Sheikh Mohammed. So then he's going to actually travel to United Arab Emirates, according to the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. So he's just going to make some rounds, take a couple trips, go a couple places to actually get himself, a couple new toys. Speaking to India Today, news channel France ambassador to India, Emmanuel Lenin, described Moody's visit as symbolic and exceptional. He said it would have a maximum impact and maximum outcome for both nations. Lenin also said Moody's ambitious Make in India initiative would be a priority to the co-development of military hardware. The upcoming visit is expected to strengthen goal-setting objectives in the areas of strategic collaboration, scientific advancements, cultural exchange, and economic cooperation between the two nations. Kind of interesting that France has actually gone to the point of actually made in India type deal for all of their military hardware, as opposed to made in any other country, like maybe even their own. Madcore Mofo, what is up, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. So, made in India. Let's go ahead. You make the stuff for us. We'll give you some of the weaponry, the hardware that it is that you're actually producing for us. I'm sure they'll probably get a nice little deal on that. On Monday, the Indian Ministry of Defense gave approval for the purchase of 26 Rafale Marine fighter aircrafts and 3 Scorpion-class conventional submarines from France. Initial estimates value the deals at $6.05 billion and $4.4 billion, respectively, although the final amounts remain subject to negotiation. So, it looks like it's supposed to be $10 billion. I don't really think it's going to be $10 billion. So I would almost assume that they would get a better deal if they're actually going to be making the deal to actually have things made in India as opposed to any other country. The Ministry's Defense Acquisition Council would take up this discussion on the proposed deals with July 13th. News agency ANI reported it is expected to formally clear the way for procurement. The deals could be announced publicly during Moody's visit to Paris, although the contracts are likely to be signed only after the cycle of negotiations, which may take many months. The deal would see the Indian Navy acquire 22 single-seater Rafale M fighter aircrafts, along with 4 trainer fighters, These jets would be deployed on India's aircraft carriers INS Vikramaditya and the INS Vikrant. The three new Scorpion class submarines seen in deterrent against India's neighbors Pakistan and China. So uh, Pakistan and China are north of India on the other side of this big, huge, long mountain range. How three nuclear class submarines will actually deter Pakistan or China is kind of a stranger deal in itself. I can kind of see how it would actually deter China to a point. Pakistan, on the other hand, it seems like that's a little far away. It might be a little strange for that to actually be a country that they'll actually be able to defend themselves against using submarines. But hey, awesome. Sounds good. Nuclear class submarines are sought after, and if you can actually obtain a couple of them and put them in your own army, navy, or however you want to put it, your military might's gonna expand exponentially for sure. If when you look at all this or whatever, so then you start putting all the little blocks and bricks together, and you start seeing a bigger picture. You actually see the difference between what's going on in Ukraine with Russia, and you see what's going on in South Korea with North Korea, and you see what's happening with potentially with Japan and Australia and the United States, and then you see China looking at at Taiwan, and all of a sudden India is like, well, wait a minute, we need to actually bolster our system a little bit. Not that they haven't been bolstering their military might for quite some time now. Along that mountain ridge, there's been several years now that they've actually been building multiple different military bases up and along that whole ridge uh, for reasons. China has been doing the same, building military bases along their border with India as well. A very, very built up area. It's kind of interesting to actually see. Um, It's just the three new Scorpion class submarines seen in a deterrent against India's neighbors Pakistan and China could be acquired by India through the repeat order process rather than fresh order. Indian media reported earlier this year India was previously looking at acquiring 6 submarines under the Project 75I program, which envisions building submarines equipped with air independent propulsion. But the procurement of was delayed due to the lack of vendors with tested and proven AIP technologies. The 6 Scorpion submarines in Project 75 have already been built at Magazon Dock and state-run shipbuilding facility in Mumbai. It's in collaboration with the French Naval Group. They've actually been building their navy for them for quite some time. Their ties to each other could be something interesting to see um, if if they've been actually looking at China for the longest time, and China says that they would actually go ahead and back Russia in their venture across Europe and Ukraine. It really seriously kind of interesting to see if France and if India would actually join in with uh, NATO per se. I mean, not necessarily would they actually be NATO themselves, but they would actually be able to actually join in the adventure of World War III with the rest of them. India and France could also discuss a possible partnership with 100% technology transfer of fighter jet engine technology, according to media reports, as New Delhi is also looking to clinch a deal to power the futuristic 5th-generation advanced medium combat aircraft fighter jet, the development of which is expected to take 10 years. Funding for development has yet to be approved by the Cabinet Committee on Security. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute noted earlier this year that France has emerged as India's second largest arms supplier between 28 and 2022, or 2018 and 2022, uh, accounting for 29% of the country's imports as compared to Russia's 45% during the same period. Data shows that India was the largest recipient of France's total global arms exports during the same period at 22%. According to the CIPRI, French defense exports to India, which have included 62 aircraft and 4 submarines, have risen by 489% since 2013. That's quite a percentage increase. It's quite a percentage at 489%. I mean, it's for them to actually maximize their abilities, having as many submarines and aircraft that they already do have, to get more fighter jets and submarines from another country to actually, bolster their military. They're going to actually back France or anything that happens. These two countries seem to be very, very friendly with each other, and they're not going to put up with much of anything when it comes down to it. Uh, Jedipur nuclear plant project in Western India's state of Maharashtra may also be discussed during the bilateral talks. Jidapur is France's biggest civil nuclear project abroad and has been under discussion for the last 14 years. With the financing of the project and the nuclear liability being major issues on which parties have yet to agree. So there's other things that India and France are really friendly on. If they're building a nuclear project, just for energy in itself, that project, being 14 years in the making, it could be a fairly massive, project, and it could actually produce enough electricity or energy for France to actually become somewhat independent to themselves and or be able to sell their own energies in and out of the area. What's up, Lucky Chucky? Bernie Mac, good to see us. Good to see us. It's kind of interesting to see how military might is being actually handed from one country to the next, and it's a big chunk of money. It's a big chunk of money that would actually, go a long way for the country of France to actually be able to uh, spend on maybe that nuclear power plant that they're actually so tediously working on for the last 14 years. You just never know. It's a lot of interesting things going on. As we all know, Moody was in the United States last week or the week before with Joe Biden. All of them really have something to do with each other. They're all going to talk to each other because they have to. Otherwise, countries just don't have uh, the means to exist or coexist with anybody else. You kind of have to diplomatically talk to each other. Uh, Kind of interesting to see what would actually come out of all this, being that their military is going to be bolstered. It's kind of fun. Kind of fun. Cool. You listen to the No Agenda podcast? No, I don't normally listen to the No Agenda podcast. The show will be later today on Thursday. Okay. I have to see if I can actually catch the No Agenda podcast. I know that you've actually said something to me before. I just don't normally get a lot of time to actually watch other things, as I'm usually busy doing my own stuff or whatever. I really don't get a chance to check it out, but I'll see if, yep, I do have, here it is, No Agenda podcast. I have it actually written down. I'll put this in front of me and I'll see if I can't remember to actually check that out tomorrow. It's just audio? Okay. I'll see what I can do. Sounds fun. Because, I mean, if they talk about the same kind of stuff or whatever, it might actually be worth my while to actually check that out. Kind of move on a little bit here. Of course. Come on. Refresh. Poland sets terms to full reconciliation with Ukraine. So Not gonna happen. Once we get through this article, you understand why I say this is not gonna happen. There's no way that they're actually gonna come to terms with them, reconcile anything. All remains of World War II era victims and Ukrainian nationalists must be found and laid to rest, the prime minister said. The remains of thousands of Poles killed in Ukrainian nationalists during World War II must be found and properly buried before the two nations can fully reconcile. Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki has said Morawiecki took part in a ceremony in Warsaw on Tuesday to mark the 80th anniversary of the massacres of Volhynia and Eastern Galicia. The estimated 100,000 ethnic Poles were murdered by members of Ukrainian insurgent army and the militia organization of Ukrainian nationalists. The slaughter took place between 1943 and 1945, the amid Nazi occupation. The nationalists allied themselves with the invaders, hoping to create a mono-ethnic Ukrainian state. With their help, the mass killings, which Warsaw considered an act of genocide, were meant to shift the demographics in favor of the same goal. The killers also targeted other ethnic groups, such as Jews and Russians, as well as people they considered to be standing in their way. Warsaw considers July 11th, 1943 as the peak of atrocities, and the UPA on the day launched a coordinated attack on some 100 predominantly Polish villages and towns. The crime wasn't carried out by the heartless apparatus of the state, but by people who had turned in their hatred for those with whom they had shared an existence for years, for decades, for centuries, Morawiecki said. The Polish prime minister stressed that there won't be full Polish-Ukrainian reconciliation until all the remains of the victims are buried in accordance with the Christian tradition. Morawiecki went on to suggest that Ukraine began a nation at war and constantly losing its civilians to violence must realize that feelings of the Polish people, which calling the Ukrainians neighbors and allies. Groups supported by the Polish government are continuing their search for wartime dead in Ukraine, but cooperation with Kyiv has not been entirely smooth. In 2017, Ukraine banned such activities after the memorial of UPA fighters have dismantled in Poland. The pause was lifted in 2022 when permission to exhume the graves of victims in the Ukraine village of Puzhnik was granted to a Polish NGO. The current Ukrainian government views the OUN and UPA and their leaders of national heroes as they fought the Ukrainian independence from the Soviet Union. Prominent nationalists have streets named after them, while the birthday of Stefan Bandera, the OUN's leader, is marked with annual torch marches. Some Ukrainian officials, such as former ambassador to Germany, Andrei Milnik, have denied the crimes of the nationalists. So they're saying they're going to deny, deny, because that's what they know how to do, is continuously deny it, which is fine. You can deny as much as you actually want, but when it comes down to it, it really seriously needs to be looked at as if Poland wants their peoples back so they can actually rightfully bury them. Really seriously they're gonna stand by themselves. I would hope. I would hope that they would actually stand by themselves and actually not allow anything to slip through. Being that it's being denied by the other side that it even happened, it really seriously kind of sounds like they may never actually come up with or be friendly with each other. Though there's articles about it, so which means there has to be some kind of talk. There has to be some kind of talk, something going on, and so the conversation between the two countries is just that Poland wants every single victim that was ever removed put back into their own ground. I want to see the link you posted, but it was taken down by then. What? What's up, Charlemagne? How you doing, dear? Good to see. Good to see. 11 says done. When he was done. Oh, private conversation. I love it. Thank you all so much for being here. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. And let this page refresh itself and bring itself up here, I guess. Russia is set to bolster industrial ties with China. When you see you see how things kind of evolve and how things move around, and you see how each one of these countries decide to actually work with each other and not work with each other. It's like this country works with this one, France works with India, Poland says they don't want any work with Ukraine. Russia says, okay, well, let's see if we can't, do some better ties with China. Um, World War III is really something. It's really something to actually be paying attention to as it's actually happening. The way I see it, anyway. Good thing Mr. Angry isn't on yet. I mean, does he normally come on right now? Russia is committed to bringing in the agreements of industrial cooperation with China to fruition while dealing with the challenges it faces. Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin said in the week, the main areas of the joint work were determined by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping, and all the agreements reached by the two leaders must be brought to concrete results. We have every opportunity to fulfill this, he said on Monday, addressing Russia's industrial fair. Mishustin noted that the country's industrial output surged by 7% over the past 4 years, while the manufacturing index in the processing industry jumped by 12.8% year on year in May. Over 160 Chinese companies in 12 provinces are taking part in the Russian-Chinese Expo, which kicked off in Ekaterinburg on Monday as part of the Inoprom exhibition. The Sverdlovsk region governor Evgeny recently said that his region is interested in cooperating with China in areas such as microelectronics and the machine tool industry, particularly in exports of machine tools and their joint manufacturing. Now, as you actually see Russia trying to actually bolster their manufacturing might with China, you have to also remember China is building our stuff. Most of our companies' manufactured goods are actually in China. We have to actually, get them shipped from China to the States on a regular basis for us to have anything. I would say almost most of everything that we have in the States here is probably most likely produced in China. So, for Russia to say, well, we want our stuff produced in China as well, really seriously kind of it seems like could be counterproductive for one country or the other. It's really seriously something. Over 160 Chinese companies in 12 provinces have taken part in Russia-China Expo in Inoprom. As Sverdlovsk region governor Evgeny recently said that his region is interested in cooperating with China, particularly in exports of machine tools and joint manufacturing. Bilateral cooperation between Russia and China has been growing at an unprecedented pace over the past year. It is on course to surpass the $200 billion target this year. In 2022, trade turnover hit the historic high of 190.3 billion in annual terms and continues to accelerate. Exports and imports have surged at a double-digit pace since the beginning of the year. According to customs data, bilateral trade soared at 93.8 billion in January through May, marking a 40% increase compared to the year ago. Economic ties have been bolstered by the mutual decision to conduct a majority of the transactions in the nation's own currencies instead of the US dollar. Of course, they're going to go in their own currencies. They don't want anything to do with the US dollar. They've been actually trying to delegitimize the US dollar as much as they possibly can. They don't want anything to do with that. So yuans and rubles. It's pretty much is where it's going to come down to is you're not going to see um, this uh, them not go along with this deal. We're gonna actually find out that when it comes down to it, we're not just fighting Russia. We're fighting our own manufacturer of China as well. Will they give away our trade secrets? Oh, right. They probably will because they don't care about us. They don't care about us. They want us to actually be eliminated. They'd rather remove us from the face of the planet. So then Beijing signs controversial pact with Solomon Islands. There's so much going on in the world when it comes to military might. All of a sudden, China, China, China. We've been warned about China for a long time. China's going to go ahead and they're going to actually do whatever they can to actually uh, put their foot on everybody else's territory. U.S. efforts to lure Honduras back into the Western fold has largely failed. So I mean, they didn't even want to come back. They're like, nah, we don't want anything to do with the United States. Let's go. Solomon Islands Prime Minister Manusha Sergever traveled to Beijing on Monday to sign 9 bilateral agreements on economic, technical, and policing cooperation. Policing cooperation. It was the Chinese counterpart, Premier Li Qiang, as well as President Xi Jinping. The agreements include a joint statement released on Tuesday affirming that the two countries' new comprehensive strategic partnership, as well as an agreement to enhance cooperation on law enforcement and security matters, in which China pledged to continue supporting the Solomon Islands with the police training and equipment through 2025. Beijing has previously trained and supplied replica guns and riot control equipment to the island nations police force, including water cannon vehicles. Solomon Islands affirmed its support for the One China policy in the joint statement, which included a less than subtle hint to Japan to prudently handle issues such as the discharge of nuclear contaminated water from the Fukushima meltdown into the sea, a plan China has long opposed, and a jab at the US and UK project to provide Australia with a nuclear submarine. So Solomon Islands go ahead and they actually, throw a wrench in the whole, game of war that we're actually dealing with, and they're actually, pushing for some ridiculous policies, one China policies, trying to hit to Japan to, discharge of nuclear contaminated water. Just put it right into the ocean. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's going to be more to come. There's going to be more to come anyway. It don't matter. From the Fukushima meltdown into the sea. So then, them taking jabs at the U.S. and UK projects to provide Australia with nuclear submarine. I mean, it's something that's already in the books that we were actually supposed to actually hand over a couple submarines to Australia so that they can actually defend themselves as China continues to bolster their military might. So the Solomon Islands, sir, has a lot to learn from China's development experience. Prime Minister Sogavar told the Chinese leaders, adding that he was eager to further boost relations between the two nations. Confirming the nature of the meeting, Lee told the reporters that two governments had decided to establish comprehensive strategic partnership of mutual respect and common development, remarking favorably on how quickly and advantageously the relationship had developed. Beijing is looking to expand its Belt and Road Initiative through the Pacific and across Asia and Africa with a network of ports and other infrastructure. Xi told Sogavar in the later meeting, adding that the country hopes to invest significantly in the Pacific region through existing the startup Chinese companies without political strings attached. China understands the Pacific Island countries are facing severe challenges with climate change and is willing to strengthen exchanges and cooperation, Xi continued. Zaldivar, who formerly opened Solomon Islands embassy in Beijing before returning home on Saturday, Solomon Islands switched diplomatic relations in 2019 from Taiwan to Beijing and announced a major security and diplomatic pact with the country last year. Seemingly blindsided by the move, the U.S. has spent the last year struggling to woo uh, Honiara away from the Biden administration's fears, has become the regional military partner, even opening an embassy there in February, its first since 1993. It, Beijing, China is going around and actually trying to gather as much territory as they possibly can. And, Solomon Islands sees, in my opinion, sees what's happening, what's going to actually come up with Taiwan, and doesn't want that to happen to them. So instead of doing the same as Taiwan, they're actually going to do the opposite, and they're going to actually join them. So that way they aren't defeated immediately. I say immediately because, there's still potentiality of something happening in the future. What's up, Great Liquor? Good to see you. The State Department delegation visited Solomon Islands just days after the partnership with China was announced, warning that should they permit Beijing to establish a military presence there, the U.S. would have to respond accordingly. Prime Minister Zaldivar repeatedly reassured the Americans that there would be no Chinese military base, long-term presence, or power projection capability in his country as a result of the agreement. Yeah, right. You agreed to something. You agreed to something with China, and you gave them the right to actually come in and actually go ahead and build an embassy. You went and built an embassy in Beijing yourself. So that means there's at least some kind of presence already. Why you would consider it long-term presence, and you'd be like, oh, it's nothing big. Don't worry. Nothing's coming. Nothing's going to come out of this. We'll be fine. Is kind of off kilter a little bit. When you actually see everything that's actually happening in the United States or around the world, you kind of you're like, nah. You did this on purpose. You did this on purpose to save your ass because you can see what's actually coming up. You're watching the world collapse. And you don't want to be that country that just us and collapses. You want to actually be part of the One China initiative to actually go ahead and become part of that. So then, yesterday we kind of hit on China and Japan. China had warned NATO not to actually go after and try actually getting Japan to be part of NATO. Again, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Japan is in the Pacific. They're not in the Atlantic. It's really seriously kind of mind-boggling to actually think that we would actually even consider such a thing. Maybe they should change the name of NATO to a world police or something, and then maybe they would be okay. And they'd be able to gather up a couple more countries like Japan. Though China's warning them, do not expand into the Asia Pacific. Don't come here. Don't come here. They don't want us there. They've not wanted us there ever. They don't want any of our military might sitting around. They don't want us in the South China Sea. They don't want us in South Korea. They don't want us to be friends with Japan. They don't want us to have anything to do with Australia. They just stay away and allow us to actually do what we want as we take over the world. The Chinese government has urged NATO not to expand to the Asia Pacific, warning that it would retaliate and increase Western military presence in the region after the alliance criticized Beijing during its summit in Lithuania. China's mission in the European Union issued a statement on Tuesday in response to NATO's joint communique, which accused Beijing of pursuing coercive policies that challenge Western interests. The China related content in the communique disregards basic facts, wantonly distorts China's position and policies, and deliberately discredits China. We firmly oppose and reject this, the Chinese diplomat said. So they don't want anything to, China says we don't want we don't even want you in the area. We don't want you to exist. We don't want any of this. But you're going to continue to actually glad that you enjoyed yourself, Bernie Mac. Awesome. I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself. The statement went on to pledge that Beijing would safeguard its sovereignty and oppose NATO's eastward expansion into the Asia Pacific. It added that any actions that damage China's legitimate rights and interests will be met with resolute response. Stay away. Don't come here is what they're basically saying. Stay away from China. Stay away from Korea, from anywhere in between. Stay away from Japan. Stay away from all of it. They don't want you to have and show any interest in the region at all. In any of it. They're doing this on purpose. They're doing this on purpose because they know what they want and they know where they're actually going to go next. They're going to actually try taking over whatever they possibly can, as they had tried to do several times before. Leaders in the Western Military Alliance met with Tuesday in the Lithuanian capital Vilnius to discuss additional aid to Ukraine. Among other matters, they also accused Beijing of posing cyberspace, hybrid, and other asymmetric threats in engaging with a malicious use of emerging and disruptive technologies. The Chinese EU mission argued that NATO had failed to reflect in its own responsibilities and instead blindly blames other countries, keeps meddling with extraterritorial affairs, and creates confrontation. It added that the bloc's ambition for expansion and hegemony are obvious and warned that the status of the nuclear alliance would only further aggravate regional tensions. They're aggravated. They're already agitated with us. They don't want anything to do with us. They don't want us in their area. They don't want us to actually come there because they know dang well that we're just going to actually, show our presence, and just showing the presence alone is enough for them to actually think that there's something that we don't need to be there for. And they're going to actually start taking offense to it, and they're going to come after us. They're going to come after us, and they're going to go after every other country that they possibly can. This is slowly starting to wake up to all this. The statement comes as the Chinese officials warned against the opening of NATO liaison office in Japan, which would mark the bloc's first facility in Asia. Though Tokyo indicated it was considering the idea, France has reportedly shot down the project, insisting NATO should remain confined to the North Atlantic. I agree 100 times over. But I don't agree with that either. I think NATO should be disbanded. NATO shouldn't even exist. Warsaw Pact no longer exists. NATO should no longer exist. The relations between the U.S. and China has deteriorated significantly in recent years, with countries clashing over Taiwan, global trade, and human rights. Beijing remarks that NATO's expansion echo previous criticism from Moscow, which has repeatedly decried the alliance's gradual expansion eastward in recent decades, and stressed that it considers Western military sites close to its borders a threat to national security. NATO has rejected these claims, insisting that the supply of heavy weapons to Ukraine does not make the alliance a party to the Russian-Ukraine conflict. It doesn't. If they become part of NATO, and you allow Ukraine to actually become part of NATO at the same time, that means all countries that are part of it are actually supposed to put up so much of a percentage of their military might to actually support their NATO member. So, are you sure? You sure that's not how that works? Kyiv had hoped that it would offer a clear path to NATO membership at the Vilnius summit on Tuesday, but was disappointed after the alliance reiterated the prior promises had admitted Ukraine as a member of the same point in the future after its armed conflict with Russia is resolved. Again, it needs to be resolved. It needs to be resolved first. They're not going to actually allow Ukraine to actually become part of NATO until this conflict is done. Once the conflict is done and over with, then and only then will they actually allow NATO in, according to what they're saying. According to what they're saying. Um, so this is actually President Biden's speech today at a NATO summit in Lithuania. It's like a 20-minute watch. I'm not going to actually make this actually be a thing to be watched. It is something that is available. It's something that most you may want to actually go and pay attention to on what is actually being said. What Joe Biden really seriously wants. How ignorant he is when it comes to the point and what he actually does want, and how he's actually framing it to be that once certain things are done and taken care of, that he would indeed do just that and actually expand NATO as far as he possibly could. Um, I'm gonna actually mark that one. So then Viktor Orban helps prevent World War III in Vilnius. We should bring peace instead of weapons to Ukraine. Which, as you see, the shortest man in the room, Zelensky, standing in front of everybody there. Shortest man in the room. Shortest man in the room, no matter what. With Joe Biden calling a lid to the NATO summit in Vilnius, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban helped prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. A NATO membership from Ukraine would put the defensive alliance at war with Russia, potentially sparking World War III, while Hungary was the only member state to publicly voice its opposition to bringing in the most corrupt country in Europe into NATO. Many others advised caution behind closed doors, as Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó says, instead of bringing weapons to Ukraine, we should bring peace, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said. Hungary stands firmly on the side of peace instead of war. Peace negotiations should start as soon as possible. I agree with him. Peace negotiations should start as soon as possible. It should have been something that should maybe already been done, and something that we shouldn't necessarily be sitting here waiting on to actually occur. And get the conversation started. Let's end this ridiculousness, or not, because the second they end it, then Ukraine becomes part of NATO. Which we're going to get into more with NATO here as we move on here. So this is Orban referenced the responsibility of Hungarian minority living in Ukraine, since the war is in our neighborhood and tens of thousands of Hungarian people are in immediate danger because of the Hungarians living in Transcarpathia in Ukraine. Hungary insists that the NATO should not change its previous position. NATO is a military defense alliance. It was created to protect its member states, not to carry out military actions on the territory of other countries. He's telling the truth. He's telling the truth. He's straight up letting you know this is how it should be. There's no reason whatsoever why we should actually be interjecting in anybody else's wars as NATO itself. And I'm saying the United States should also, think about it and not put themselves in predicaments with other countries. I really don't like us spending our billions to actually help another country that can't help themselves. At the start of the negotiations, the Hungarian position completely coincides with NATO's position, since NATO does not send troops, does not send weapons, does not train combat military units, but rather tries to strengthen the defense capabilities of its own member states. This is necessary and right, and Hungary will support it. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter warned that there is a campaigning forcefully for Ukraine to join NATO and pull the alliance into direct war with the Russian Federation. Those thinking responsibly and advising caution oppose that agenda, as they should. They should totally oppose that agenda. It doesn't make any sense to allow a country into NATO to draw every other country, all the other 32 countries that are actually part of NATO, or 33? 33. To allow them to actually become part of, or was it 30, 32? Ukraine would be number 33. So, it's for them to actually, think that this is okay, would be wrong, because okay, well, we're gonna go to war. You ready? Go ahead, drop your 5% of all military might. Let's go. We need your help right now, and whatever it is that you can actually put up to actually protect us, to keep us from actually being overrun by the likeness of Russia. We need you, all hands on deck. It's really ridiculous that they're not part of NATO already, as much as we're actually trying to help them. That's not what NATO is intended to do. Like guy from Hungary is actually saying, that's not what it's intended for. He noted that Hungary had been alone in the call of caution openly, while there were others advising caution behind closed doors. It became clear that the number of those thinking responsibly is larger than it seemed. Obviously, the NATO integration in the countries currently at war is out of the question. That would mean an immediate threat of war to the entire alliance. Exactly. You don't want that. You don't want that. The warmongers of the Biden regime have led Ukraine down the primrose path of war with Russia over since Antony Blinken's U.S.-Ukraine Charter on Strategic Partnership, November 2021, set the stage for Ukraine's NATO membership. So, they've already set the stage. It's set. They know that they're eventually going to be a part of NATO. They know that they're actually going to be part of NATO. It's something that will eventually happen. I'm just glad that they're all actually using half a brain, and they're actually saying, no, we can't do it right now. End the war, and then we'll actually help you. Senator Lindsey Graham visited Kyiv in May and allegedly called Russians dying the best money we've ever spent. And the seeming encouragement has led Ukraine to send thousands of young men to die in Russian minefields in a failed spring offensive, which has cost at least 15,000 Ukrainian lives. Gateway Pundit was learned that the Western intel sources, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, puts Ukraine's losses at 26,000. TASS reported the advisory's losses beginning on June 4th have reached over 26,000 servicemen and over 3,000 items of various pieces of armament. So they're actually losing the armament, the ammunition, the stuff that we're actually sending them. They're losing it. They're losing the weaponry needed to continue to actually fight this war, and that's why they're screaming at us to give them more. We need more. We need more. We need more. Why did we send more in such small little batches? Why would we do such a thing? Are we that ignorant to the point where we're just like, oh, it's okay, we'll just send small batches here and there, watch this larger army go ahead and decimate these small implants of necessary might? It's really seriously so stupid to actually think about. The Biden administration is hurting us. Biden administration is going to do whatever they can to actually hurt the United States. They don't care about the United States. They never have, and they never will. Now, it has become clear that Biden administration will leave Ukrainians out in the cold, prompting an angry reaction to the actor of President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying Ukraine deserves respect and calling it unprecedented and absurd that no time frame has been set for Ukraine's NATO membership. It seems there's no readiness either to invite Ukraine to NATO nor to make it a member of the alliance, Zelensky fumed. So Zelensky's just like, yeah, right, you don't want us there. You don't want to do it now. You're not going to want to do it later. We need to do it now, according to you. According to you, it's absurd. It's unprecedented that we're actually saying no, end the war first, and then we'll actually become an alliance. No, we must ally with you now, and go down with the sinking ship. Or I mean, which is it? Do you really seriously want world war? Is that what you're actually aiming for, Mr. Zelensky? It seems that Zelensky's the one that's actually pulling those strings for Joe Biden. And this particular instance, he's the one that's saying, come on, I need this now. No, not in 7 months. I need it now. Well, what? Now you're going to give me cluster bombs? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Well, I still need more. I need more money. I need more money so that I can survive. I can continue to actually reign supreme. The members of the U.S. delegation are furious after learning about the Ukrainian leader's message, and the Washington Post reported, citing an unnamed official familiar with the matter, Zelensky blasting the alliance stood in stark contrast to the image of the Western harmony that U.S. President Joe Biden and his aides had been projecting, the Washington Post reported. The videos are age restricted. It really seriously, it shouldn't be age restricted. It's something similar to what was going on here. That's fun. That's fun. Somebody must have said some choice to actually get them to actually go ahead and take that down. Exactly. Biden regime hates us. America hates U.S. They're gonna lose. You think so? You think America's gonna lose, or you think Ukraine's gonna, or Russia's gonna lose? Which one is it, Bernie Mac? You tell me. You tell me what you think. I like different opinions, so you tell me what you think, and we'll see if how many people actually feel the same. Anybody else that has any thoughts or opinions on all this, go ahead. Throw a comment at me. We'll see what kind of conversation we can create out of it. So then, this lady here, Nikki Haley is a presidential runner for 2024. Says it changes nothing for us to have Ukraine be able to become part of NATO. Changes nothing. Changes absolutely nothing, according to Nikki Haley. World War III watch. Can this delusional neocon finally go away? Nikki Haley, the Rhino 2024 presidential candidate, barely registering for the polls, appeared on Fox News Tuesday and made one of the most dangerous claims yet. Haley advocated for Ukraine to become a member of NATO just hours after Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky slammed NATO over no clear path to membership. There is a clear path to membership. End the war. End the war. You want in? That's how you get in. Joe Biden is pitching Ukraine's NATO membership to NATO leaders. Biden has slipped during a recent interview with the CNN's Fareed Zakaria and admitted that he sent Ukraine cluster bombs. He did. He admitted to it. He admitted he actually went ahead, and they're going to be sent. They will be sent. There's nothing more that we can do about it. Joe Biden's made the decision for us. He is now a war criminal. Joe Biden is dragging us further toward World War III, Trump said in a statement. Trump is correct. Recall WikiLeaks cable showed NATO warnings before Russia invaded Ukraine. The expansion of NATO in the region is what is causing Russia's aggression. Nikki Haley knows this, yet if she had it her way, she would push for Ukraine to join the alliance which would ultimately drag the United States into a war, Article 5, with a nuclear power, Russia. No thanks, Nikki. I agree with the no thanks, Nikki. No, we don't want anything to do with it, Nikki Haley. Stop trying to actually push your neocon thoughts and ideas on us. We don't want anything to do with those. Anybody that is actually paying attention and actually debating on where to actually vote in 2024, maybe not vote for Nikki Haley. Yes, and the war. Yep, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Go Hagen, what is up? And do you think that makes a difference how the war is over Ukraine being a Western puppet on the border to how the war ending matters? They join NATO. I don't see. That was a stipulation that they needed to actually end the war before they could actually become NATO member. That was a stipulation that was actually set this morning through NATO meetings out of Vilnius. Nasty Nikki. Yep. Not even her name. It's not even her name. Nimrata. Isn't that right? Nimrata. Nimrata's her name, not Nikki. Nikki's her name that she gave herself. It's Nimrata. So then Biden pledges security guarantees to Ukraine during meeting with Zelensky. So, though he still feels, the Zelensky feels is that there's no clear path for him to actually be part of NATO in any way, shape, or form. It's still, Biden's still making guarantees. He's making guarantees. We'll protect you. It's okay. We got you. Vilnius, Lithuania. President Joe Biden met with a group of 7 leaders at a July 12th in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization summit to offer security assistance to Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also joined the meeting, during which the G7 leaders issued a joint declaration of support for Ukraine. This joint declaration will make it clear that our support will last long into the future, Mr. Biden announced after the conclusion of the meeting. We're going to help Ukraine build a strong, capable defense across land, air, and sea. He noted that this step will ensure regional stability and avert all threats. Like it did where? Like it did in any other country? Did it do the same thing in Afghanistan? I doubt it. He noted that this step will ensure regional stability. I think it's a powerful statement that our commitment to Ukraine as it defends the freedom today and as it rebuilds the future, and we're going to be there as long as that takes. Yay, we're going to be there as long as it takes. We're going to be there holding their hand the whole way until something actually breaks where they can actually end this war. So, see you in 20 years. Maybe. Before the summit, the White House indicated that Ukraine could receive Israel-style security guarantees in its fighting against Russia. Oh, yeah, okay. So even longer, Israel-style. There you go. Let's put an iron curtain over the whole top of Ukraine to go ahead and try taking care of any military might that's trying to incur them. Let's see. Yes, Russia is fighting them because they're Western puppets. So they're joining NATO changes that, or does it make it worse? Makes it worse. Makes it worse because it makes every other country actually join. That's my point. I don't see Russia accepting such a thing. Everything they've said is they won't under any circumstances. Yeah, they're not going to give up. They want what they want. So, if the only way that the war ends is that Ukraine actually goes to the point of actually saying, okay, fine, we'll give you Donbass region, we'll give you Crimea, we won't, we'll just kind of sit back on it or whatever and just be like, okay, we no longer have Crimea, we no longer have Donbass region. Those are Russian territories. The rest of Ukraine would actually, just become what it is of Ukraine, borderland. It just, I don't see it being a good deal. The only way it's going to end is if that happens for them to actually become part of NATO. NATO said no. NATO said no. We'll give you a path, but no, you can't actually join us right now. End the war first. That was their words. That means the United States would provide various forms of military assistance, intelligence and information sharing, cyber support, and other forms of material support so that Ukraine can both defend itself and deter future aggression. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters on July 9th. As part of the declaration, Biden explained that each country will individually negotiate long-term bilateral security agreements with Ukraine. Ukrainian delegation is bringing home significant security victory for the Ukraine and for our country, for our people, for our children, Mr. Zelensky said after the event. How are you bringing home a victory? You're not bringing home a victory. You're not, just because you think that you have the assistance, because Biden says that he's not going to actually step away from you. It doesn't make you part of NATO. It does not give you the ability to actually go ahead and do all the things that you really seriously want to do. It's like the 51st state, or Joe Biden's mind, maybe the 55th state. I don't know. Mr. Biden later met with Mr. Zelensky in bilateral discussion, during which the Russian invasion of Ukraine is straight out of the 14th century, and praised his courage and resilience. Mr. Biden acknowledged Mr. Zelensky's frustration with the slow pace of the U.S. assistance. But I promise you, Mr. Biden said, the United States is doing everything we can to get you what you need as rapidly as we can. Delay tactics. As many delay tactics as we possibly can to get you everything that you need before you get decimated. Ukraine's path to NATO membership, the announcement of security guarantees came from Mr. Zelensky, expressed frustration about the NATO communique released on July 11th that failed to provide a timeline of Ukraine's accession to the military alliance. He criticized the alliance during the summit, calling the decision unprecedented and absurd. Leaders of NATO member countries participating in the year's summit in Vilnius issued a communique on July 11th saying that Ukraine can join the military alliance when allies agree and conditions are met. Ukraine's future is in NATO, the communique PDF reads. Ukraine's future is in NATO. They will be part of NATO eventually. Is World War II really over? I mean, technically it is, but then at the same time, when you actually see, and the reason that it is because Russia is no longer technically considered communist. They're no longer communists. They're actually more based than you'd like to think. Christian, Catholic, conservative, family orientated. Very kind of interesting to actually see where Russia actually is near and around Ukraine, which just so happens to be full of them, quote unquote, Yahtzees. It's very, very interesting to actually think about that. From backing one side to the spectrum to back in the other side. We've really seriously changed that much. That's where we're going to actually go. We're going to actually go ahead and we're going to back the leftists leaning Yahtzees of Ukraine. Ukraine was a key topic and decision at the year's summit, with allies debating the country's future membership and further aid of the war-torn nation. However, there are a wide range of views among the allies in the months leading up to the meeting over Ukraine's eventual membership. The United States, Germany, and Southern NATO partners have been more cautious about Ukraine's membership, while the Baltic states and Eastern European nations, such as Poland, had the most hawkish and assertive stance. White House defends NATO communique. In response to Mr. Zelensky's message to the White House on July 12th, defended NATO's decision, noting that it sends a very strong forward-leaning message to Ukraine. It would agree that the communique is unprecedented, but I see that as a positive way. Amanda Slott, one on White House National Security Council's Senior Director of Europe, told reporters on July 12th. We joined the Allies yesterday in agreeing with a very strong positive message. We reaffirm that Ukraine will become a member of the NATO alliance in the future. In the future. The Allies reaffirmed that the commitment made in 2008 Bucharest summit and acknowledged that Kyiv has made substantial progress in its reform path. In the communique, NATO also removed the requirement that Ukraine implement a so-called membership action plan. Instead, the members were decided to form a NATO-Ukraine Council, a new joint organization in which allies and Ukraine sit as equal members to further political dialogue and cooperation. They've also adapted the annual national program or review progress in the regular basis. And you can see the handshake over the top of Biden's shoulders. You can tell he's like, I'm in the wrong spot. I'm in the wrong spot. We'll kind of cover that a little bit more as we go on here. In our view, this is a very strong forward-leaning message that moves significantly beyond what has been said in the past in terms of Bucharest, Ms. Slot said. She said the G7 allies would continue to provide Kyiv with security assistance to help Ukraine on the battlefield and also on the economic and humanitarian side. However, the decision disappointed by Mr. Zelensky is unprecedented and absurd when the time frame is not neither for the invitation nor the Ukrainians' membership, while at the same time vague wording about conditions is added even for inviting Ukraine, he wrote in Twitter on July 11th. Mr. Zelensky also said Ukraine deserves respect and criticized the communique's phrasing of being discussed without Ukraine. Mr. Sullivan reiterated Mr. Biden's position that admitting Ukraine into NATO would result in a conflict with Russia. Look, I understand Ukraine's desire to be in NATO as fast as possible. That is absolutely their right to seek admission, press for it, and to advocate for it. But every NATO ally, including the United States, needs to look squarely at the fact of the admission of Ukraine into NATO at this juncture means war with Russia. That's the inescapable fact. Mr. Sullivan also said that Ukraine's membership with the allies couldn't put a mechanical formula down because war is dynamic. The situation is dynamic. So I mean, it's very dynamic when it comes down to it. Sure. Very dynamic. Yes, we will continue to protect you under the current means. But you're not part of NATO. You're not part of NATO because we don't want the conflict with Russia. Because the second that they do something where they actually make them part of NATO, that opens up Russia to go ahead and attack every other European country as well as the United States. They don't want them attacking more and more countries to try taking over more, creating more and more wars. You just all of a sudden you'll see Ukraine disappear off the face of the map, and all of a sudden you'll see them slowly trying to move them across Europe, kind of reminiscent of something some guy with his tiny beard used to do or something. Tried taking over the world. So then here you go. More Biden humiliation. World leaders reach over Joe Biden's shoulder to shake Zelensky's hand in NATO summit. You can see the look on his face. And she's looking straight forward right at that camera like, I got the front seat. And he gets to look like a fool standing next to Rishi Sunak as Zelensky tries to shake somebody's hand over the top of his shoulder. Joe Biden on Wednesday morning attended the NATO summit in Lithuania after skipping major dinner Tuesday night. Biden was in bad shape on Wednesday. Yeah, he was. He was in bad shape this morning when he actually hit that stage. He was not looking very well because you could tell that he actually skipped dinner from the night before. His reasonings for skipping dinner, in his own words, it's too much work. They've worked him too much and too many days in a row. He's also invisible to other world leaders. The world leaders in attendance do not respect Joe Biden. At one point, world leaders reached over Joe Biden's shoulder to shake Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's hand, the ultimate humiliation on the world stage. The look on Biden's face says it all. But it's very, very loud, and you can see that they scurry to actually get into place, and he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna go ahead, and I'm gonna shake your hand." You know, eh, Joe Biden, where do you want me to go next? Where am I? What am I doing? How am I doing this? So then, some other stuff that's going on here in the States. Um, Today, Kamala Harris makes history with a tie-breaking vote in Senate. They had come deadlock 50-50. Her being the vice president makes her the president of the Senate. Her being the president of the Senate, uh, she actually gets to actually fix or change any make it. She's the tie-breaking vote. So she made it 51-50 today, which was history. It was history because she more than any other person, I believe she's actually tied for it now, has actually fixed more tie-breaking votes. She's it really seriously tie-breaking votes when it comes down to it. I think there should be more than just a single vote to actually change a tiebreaker. Kamala Harris, who made history as the first woman and person of color to serve as vice president, made history again Wednesday as she matched the record of the most tie-breaking votes in the U.S. Senate. The vote, her 31st advance the nomination of Kalpana Kotagal to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They really seriously needed to actually put somebody in this position. They didn't have a choice but to put somebody in this position. The only other vice president to cast so many was John C. Calhoun, who served as vice president from 1825 to 1832. Calhoun, oh man, anybody that doesn't know anything about Calhoun, Calhoun was a big, huge advocate for slavery. He was one of the more racist of the bunch. There was a lake up in the state of Minnesota that was actually named Lake Calhoun, right next to the military base. That just so happened to get changed. They changed its name to Pede which was a American Indian name because of this guy's racism. They seriously have actually pushed against John C. Calhoun. To put her up in the likeness of John C. Calhoun is just glorious. Yes, wonderful. You get to share the likeness of John C. Calhoun right now. Isn't that something? Isn't that something fun for you, Kamala? It is a moment that I think there is still so much left that we can yet to do, Harris told reporters afterwards. My mother gave me great advice, which is that I may be the first to do many things. She added, I'm going to make sure I'm not the last. Unlike Calhoun, who spent 8 years accumulating his total, Harris tied the record in 2.5 years in reflection of her unique circumstances with a narrowly divided Senate and a sharply partisan atmosphere. It really says more about our time and our political climate. It does about anything else, said Joel Goldstein, a vice presidential historian. Our politics is so polarized that even on the sort of matters that in the past would have flown through, it takes a vice president to cast a tie-breaking vote. There was a young man or a gentleman that we had spoke of yesterday that was actually holding up these nominations. He was trying to do whatever he could to actually hold up as many nominations as possible to actually go ahead and push his abortion right. And because of what that was actually doing, they actually had a very busy day today, trying to push through as much as they possibly could to only have to bring Kamala Harris in to actually appoint this particular person. Just an appointment When you need a vice president to step up to actually help with a simple appointment, you really seriously got a really super divided Senate. This really says more about the time of the political climate. Oh, I already read that one. The occasion is hardly memorable and particularly ceremonial. Harris spent only a few minutes in the chamber reciting a brief script to the record to record her vote, and then received congratulations from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the New York Democrat. He praised the shit out of her. Under the Constitution, presiding over the Senate and breaking ties is only Constitution duties of the vice president. Schumer described it as an immense burden, and immense burden. How is it an immense burden that she has to be the vice president, that she has to come up and she has to actually put in a tie-breaking vote? How much of burden is that on her to actually have to do such a thing? Are you kidding me, Chucky? Schumer described as immense burden and said Harris has carried out her duties with supreme excellence in the midst of all other demands she faces. Yeah, demands. So many demands. So many demands that she refuses to even look at. Southern border. Harris had expected to get reprieve from the role after the midterm elections when Democrats expanded the majority from 50 to 51 votes. However, circumstances intervened. Senator John Fetterman, a newly elected Democrat from Pennsylvania, was hospitalized in clinical depression. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a California Democrat, contracted shingles and was hospitalized as well. The absence revived Harris's string of tiebreakers. Earlier this year, she helped confirm two federal judges, one in Massachusetts and the other in California. Both Fetterman and Feinstein have returned to the Senate, but contested nominations can still require Harris's presence, such as on Wednesday. Harris did not seem eager to make history with the tie-breaking votes, but she became vice president before taking office. She wrote in the San Francisco Chronicle that it is my hope that rather than come to the point of a tie, the Senate will instead find common ground and do the work of the American people. But tiebreakers swiftly became the core part of the job. The task could prove frustrating at times, limiting her travel and keeping her tethered to unpredictable events in Capitol Hill. However, it also meant that Harris cast deciding votes on issues in the American Rescue Plan, a $1.9 trillion pandemic relief measure, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which limited the cost of prescription drugs and created financial incentives for clean energy. It's a blessing, Goldstein said, because it associates her with some of the important accomplishments of the Biden administration. Yes. It's so important to actually make sure that she's actually looked at as being that deciding vote, the 51st vote, that the Senate didn't really want this particular bills to even be passed, that it required her. It required her to actually go ahead and slam this through, because that's what she did. She wanted it. She got what she wanted. All right. So then senators reintroduce a bill to prevent the U.S. president from leaving NATO. This one should have been before the last one, I guess, but whatever. Bipartisan pair. The senators reintroduced a bill Wednesday that would prohibit the U.S. president from withdrawing from NATO without Senate approval or an act of Congress. NATO serves as an essential military alliance that protects shared national interests and enhances America's international presence. Senator Marco Rubio, in a statement released as NATO leaders, included President Biden, met in Europe, any decision to leave the alliance should be rigorously debated and considered by the U.S. Congress with the input of the American people. Rubio reintroduced the bill alongside Senators Tim Kaine. The two served together in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and are longtime advocates of the alliance. The bill has been reintroduced in multiple sessions of Congress, including when concerns rose over former President Trump's reported threats to withdraw from the alliance. So, now they're trying to reintroduce this bill. They're going to try reintroducing the bill to actually stop presidents from being able to actually remove themselves from the likeness of NATO and make it be that they can't just leave without Congress actually going ahead and saying, yes, okay, it's fine. Which would, super majority off of both sides, you're really never going to get out of NATO ever again. You're never going to get out of NATO ever again. NATO is something that will always be, if they can actually pass this bill through Congress, to actually make it be that no president would actually be able to remove themselves without Congress's input. And we're going to be stuck with NATO forever. So then, this morning, myself, Beautifully Inappropriate, and Vicky, Moose, a bunch of us that like to spend our days in Discord server. Divinity was there as well for most of it. We sat there and we actually watched this FBI chief, Chris Wray, get destroyed today. We watched him get destroyed today. So then I think this one actually has a video in it that we're going to actually try sharing. It was truly epic. Matt Gaetz went off on Chris Wray during Wednesday's Judiciary Committee hearing. Gaetz questioned Wray about the FBI has not investigated the Biden family's shakedown of foreign business partners. The truly corrupt FBI director attempted to get in the last ling after brutal questioning from Matt Gaetz, but Matt Gaetz did not disappoint and dropped this in the end of his questioning. We're not going to read it because we're just going to listen to it.
Of the FBI, whether or not they are buying information about our fellow Americans. And the answer is, well, we'll just have to get back to you on that. It sounds really complicated, but I have other questions. I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deep.
I'm not going to get into commenting on that. I don't want anything to do with the likeness of Hunter Biden and any questioning that has anything to do with them, because it's an ongoing investigation. I can't say anything whatsoever anyway. So I'm just going to give you a smug look of idiocy while you question me.
Deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI
Well, you
does
won't
not
answer the
and has
question.
no
Hold on.
interest in
You won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone
about whether or not
politically.
that's a shakedown. And everybody.
His words: the FBI wants nothing to do, wants zero things to do with protecting anybody politically. According to Christopher Wray, what he had just said, there's no politics behind it whatsoever. The FBI is non-political.
Everybody knows why you won't answer it, because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is, and your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you. But let's go from the uncurious to the downright nosy. How many illegal FISA queries have occurred under your leadership of the FBI?
Well, there are reports that have come out with different numbers about compliance incidents.
More than 1 million illegal ones? Because that's what the Inspector General said. The Inspector General said that in the 3.4 million of these queries, more than 1 million were in error. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment by the Inspector General?
I'm not sure. Actually, that's a correct characterization of the Inspector General's findings on that.
The internet will remind you of that in moments. But let's now go to what the court said. The court said it was over 200,000 that have occurred on your watch. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment?
Again, I don't have the number as I sit here right now. What I can
Seems
tell
like
you,
a number you should know. How many times the FBI is breaking the law under your watch, especially if it's like over 1 million, to not know that number? And I'm worried about your veracity on the subject as well. Play the video.
Play the video. So, he's going to actually play this video. He's going to play this little video to actually, and you can see the look on Christopher Wray's face. He knows. He knows that he was going to get these questions. He knew damn well that what he was actually walking into. He knew he was going to, this was going to come at him at some way, shape, or form. And he can't answer. He can't answer a single question. Not that he doesn't want to, but because he knows that it actually goes against his own will to actually do such a thing, that it would actually not just ruin him, but it would also ruin others.
letters for
You going to the
investigation
FISA
of
court?
the Capitol.
Or you
I don't
going to-
believe FISA is remotely implicated in our
Or
investigation.
So there, Senator Lee's asking you whether or not FISA was in any way involved in your January 6th investigation, and you say no. Was that truthful?
I said that I did not believe it was.
Okay, so now let's pull up what the court said, which is something a little different than what you said. So here, nope, that's not the right one. Yeah, here we go. Right there. It says the government has reported additional significant violations of the querying standard, including several relating to the January 6, 2021 breach of the Capitol. So I guess the question, Director Wray, is did you not know when you were answering these questions that the FBI was engaging in these illegal searches, or did you perjure yourself to Senator Lee?
I certainly didn't perjure myself. At the time that I testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I didn't have that piece of information. I will add.
Well, that was a court order. You didn't have that piece of information because the court hadn't yet rendered a judgment. Did you not know when you gave the untruthful answer before Senator Lee that this was going on?
It was a truthful answer. I did not believe FISA had been involved in the January 6th
But it was.
investigation.
So you didn't. The answer is the FBI has broken so bad that people can go.
FISA was part of it. FISA was part of it, according to what Gates is actually saying here. So, being that Gates is actually speaking up and he's actually saying, they knew about it. They were there. You knew that they were there. I didn't know about it. I didn't know that they were there until after this thing was submitted. Sure you didn't. You just now figured that out. Okay. Good to know. Good to know that you had no clue what was actually going on with your own people.
And engage in queries that when you come before the Congress to answer questions, you're like blissfully ignorant. You're blissfully ignorant as to the unlawful queries. You're blissfully ignorant as to the Biden shakedown regime. And it just seems like it gets into a kind of a creepy place as well. Go to our next image on what the court said. Like, just so the American people realize, the court has smacked you down, ruling FBI personnel apparently conducted queries for improper personal reasons. People were looking themselves up. They were looking their ex-lovers up. Who has been held accountable or fired as a consequence of the FBI using the FISA process as their like creepy personal snoop machine?
Absolutely no one. Zero people would actually have heard anything about this, as he probably doesn't even know himself.
There have been instances in which individuals have had disciplinary action and who are no longer with it. I can't get into it here, but we can follow back up with
But don't you see that that's kind of the thing, Director Wray, that you preside over the FBI that has the lowest level of trust in the FBI's history? People trusted the FBI more when J. Edgar Hoover was running the place than when you are. And the reason is because you don't give straight answers. You give answers that later a court deems aren't true. And then at the end of the day, you won't criticize an obvious shakedown when it's directly in front of us. And it appears as though you're whitewashing the conduct of corrupt people.
Respectfully, Congressman, in your home state of Florida, the number of people applying to come work for us and devote their lives working for us is up over 100%.
We're deeply proud of them, and they.
To finish that off, he says we're deeply proud of them, and they hope to actually change the way things are actually being run. So, when it comes down to it, there's a couple more people that actually ask questions of Director Wray, And they actually, guy from Texas actually says the same thing, and he had 90% of Texans, or it's up about 90% that Texans are actually going ahead and they're actually applying to actually be part of the FBI. More and more people are applying for the FBI. Why? Well, because they don't like how it's actually being run. They're going to actually do what they can to change it. They want to make things better. You're getting mass amount of applications out of very large red states. Do you seriously think that they're not going to actually try changing the way things are actually being run? They're totally going to do whatever they can to do that. That being said, Dr. Ray, apparently, as he was actually given and appointed this position by Donald Trump, was actually opposed by 5 Democrats, and is a Republican in himself. That's something. According to what he says, anyway. According to what he says. Come on. Next page doesn't really want to load for me, apparently. Not a good time for that to actually happen. Okay. And of course, I got articles that just don't want to actually load themselves up. They're all just sitting there. Oh no. Oh no. I'm going to have big issues right now. That's where it helps to actually have a co-host like America Shirts actually show up. It looks like I'm actually having some internet issues as we're speaking here. Nothing actually wants to actually load. I'll be right back. All right. Well, that's fun. That's always great when that actually happens. You get a nice computer reset right in the middle of a show. That's so fun. Dang it. This computer, piece of crap. If you can, throw some support at me or whatever. See if you can actually fix this unit and actually get something better, so that way this doesn't happen. It's so horrible. Hey Rose, how you doing, dear? So then, to continue with this conversation that they had with Christopher Ray today, it says, shame on you, Rep. Troy Nels destroys Chris Ray over J6, catches him in lies on child cases, batters him on Ray Epps. This one, because of the context that's in there, or whatever, I'm going to read this one. It says FBI Director Christopher Wray testified to House Judiciary Committee today. The hearing oversight Federal Bureau of Investigation examined the politicization of the nation's preeminent law enforcement agency under the direction of FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Merrick Garland. Rep. Troy Nels, a former sheriff, destroyed the dirty Chris Wray during his testimony before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday. Nels, before the video and photos of Ray Epps encouraging Trump supporters to enter the U.S. Capitol in J5 and J6, and then leading to the charge to the first set of barriers in the U.S. Capitol. The Gateway Pundit previously reported that Ray Epps also led the charge. You can actually go in my channel. You can actually find there's actually a spot where I actually did do an episode on Ray Epps alone, and everything that he actually done. I have plenty of videos with it. It's not a very long video either. It's really not. Ray Epps also was hurling a massive metal sign at police that day. It never was charged with a criminal act. Ray Epps, who's lied to J6 committee about his actions in the day, Rep. Nels revealed that the question on Wednesday. Rep. Troy Nels brought the video and photos of Ray Epps and did not play around with Chris Wray. Nels opened up a testimony asking Ray about the resources he used to on the politicized J6 investigation. Nels caught Ray lying about moving agents working on child trafficking to work with arresting Trump supporters who walked inside the Capitol on J6. Rep. Troy Nels, it is clear that you guys are dealing with some of the sickest bastards in society. I have an article here from CNN in January 2022 calling the J6 investigation the biggest investigation in FBI history. And what shocks me about this, quite honestly, is that you don't mention J6. Again, the biggest investigation, not one time. In your 14-page testimony, you don't mention it one time. And that makes me ask myself the question, what the hell are you hiding? Sir, you mentioned 38,000 agents and support personnel in your agency. How many FBI agents and support personnel have you assigned to J6 investigation? I don't know that. I know the number. I know we have a lot of people working on it. Fair enough. Knowing what you are dealing with, some of the sickest people in society with investigations related to child trafficking, have you reassigned any of these agents or personnel to investigate J6? Yes or no? I don't believe we have reassigned people away from child exploitation. Okay, sure you haven't, but we just went ahead and we just seen a bill that we've seen them actually eliminate all writings or anything that had to do with the child stuff yesterday, as this administration decided that they feel that child trafficking isn't a thing that we need to worry about. Now, let me just say this, Director. I found that disturbing because last month, Steve Friend just testified before the Weaponization Committee. Mr. Friend was a domestic terrorist investigator for you, and he is told by one of his superiors that J6 was, I quote, a higher priority than pursuing child porn cases, end quote. And for those of you watching in America, understand today, FBI is more concerned about searching for arresting grandma and grandpa for entering a Capitol building that day than pursuing the sick individuals in our society who prey on our children. And Mr. Wray, your priorities are flawed. But let's rehash what we know so far, all right? It's the largest investigation in FBI history, and you don't mention it in your testimony. Agents have been reassigned for child exploitation cases and so on. Nels then went on to batter Chris Wray and Ray Epps. Wray and the FBI continue to lie about Ray Epps and his actions at J6. Troy Nels. There he is, breaching the line, going into the first breach of the Capitol grounds and restricted area. Mr. Wray, you were arrested, hundreds of people related to J6, and there have been people arrested for breaching Capitol grounds. Coy Griffin is an example. Rachel Genko is an example. And then we go to Mr. Brandon Straka. Brandon was arrested for disorderly and destructive conduct, and including yelling. I quote, go as rioters tried to empty the Capitol. These three never went into the Capitol. They never assaulted anyone. So let's be honest with each other. There's very little difference between the actions of Ray Epps and Brandon Straka that day. But yeah, Straka was arrested and Epps wasn't. Epps has testified in J6 committee. He was back in his hotel when a video Evans showed that he wasn't. He lied. He was in the Capitol grounds just as Brandon Straka was. EPS even texted, or Epps even texted his nephew at 2:12 p.m. and said, I quote, I was in front of a few others. It was in the video. I also orchestrated it. Now look at the camera, sir, when you answer my question. Of course, he didn't look. Christopher Wray did not look at the camera when he actually was asked this question. Are you going to arrest Ray Epps? Yes or no? I'm not going to engage here in a discussion about individual people who are or not. Oh, really? Who are or not? Oh, okay. So now we're not quite sure exactly. We're not quite sure exactly what happened. You just watched the video. I'm an old law dog. I understand a little about the probable cause. He did. There was a very little difference. So that just before he says this or whatever, so then they actually show the part where they actually move the barricade on the one side of the building, where Epps is actually, telling them, okay, this is what I want you to do. And then they all do whatever it is that, for whatever reason, Ray Epps had control over some sets of people, was able to actually incite this, to actually get this to actually occur. He's encouraging people that night prior to go into the Capitol, the day to go to the Capitol, as he was the first breach, and he breached the restricted area. A lot of people getting arrested were not going into the Capitol, but they're in the restricted area. But yet, reps raps whom many people feel fed, right? Ray Epps. I really hate how it's they didn't try going back and try fixing any of the wording on this. But yeah, Ray Epps, who many people feel fed, right? And that's a lot of cloud over there. So my point is this: you arrested a lot of folks at unlawful activity. You just saw the video, and I will tell you that if you don't arrest Mr. There's a reason behind it. I believe you know what it is, and it appears to me you are protecting this guy. I strongly recommend that you get your house back in order. With that, I yield back. Rep. Nell's final remarks for Christopher: shame on you. This is a just devastating interrogation. Chris Ray got caught, and he did. He got caught. He got caught lying about it. He knows damn well Ray Epps has a lot more to do with things than what he's actually leading on. And for whatever reason, we're gonna allow this continue to happen. We're not gonna question Ray Epps. We're not gonna go back and figure that Chris Ray was wrong in any way, shape, or form. We're just gonna allow this shit to happen. We're gonna allow this shit to happen over and over again, and just let it. Eventually, people will stop talking about it, and it'll just go away, right? All right. Well, kind of move on here a little bit. I'm kind of surprised there's no America shirts. He said they was going to be here tonight. Hopefully everything's okay with them. If y'all haven't done so already, please hit that like button, whether you're here or you're over on the Rumble side. So this is Republicans, Democrats clash over alleged tipster in Hunter Biden investigation after DOJ brings charges. Department of Justice finally brought up charges? All right. Democrats in House Committee of Oversight and Accountability on Wednesday sent a letter to Rep. James Comer, who is chairman of the committee, to turn over everything provided by Gal Luft. Mr. Luft, co-director of the think tank Institutional Analysis and Global Security, was on Monday charged with 8 counts of including working as a foreign agent for China, arming, trafficking, and making false statements to federal agents. Days before the indictment was made public, Mr. Luft filmed a video from an undisclosed location detailing the timeline of events from his own perspective. He had originally been arrested in February with the Republic of Cyprus and fled after being released in bail. The video was first obtained by the New York Post. March 2019, Mr. Luft participated in a 2-day interview with 6 FBI personnel. Mr. Luft, who holds U.S.-Israeli dual citizenship, is in Brussels at the time, and the FBI personnel flew overseas to meet with him. In the meeting, Mr. Luft says that he gave insider information about the Biden family's financial dealings with CEFC China Energy and the think tank position. He had been advisory position with CEFC China Energy, and said that the information he provided was similar to the information found on the laptop allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden, but it appeared to was not acted on. Mr. Luft said that the video in his motive was never political. He only wanted to prevent another lengthy Russia collusion type scandal as sitting president, but it happened again anyway. Veracity in the Brussels interview. Mr. Comer, who is investigating the Biden family's financial dealings and foreign nationals, has said that the multiple occasions that Mr. Luft is credible witness, one, the FBI has flown 6 people to Brussels in order to interview for 2 days. According to the indictment, the information Mr. Luft gave was false. Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman emphasized in their letter that Mr. Luft was no whistleblower, but instead a con man. For you to actually go to the point of actually trying to call out a whistleblower for the things that they've done and trying to actually say that they're not actual whistleblowers, it actually kind of breaks the law against whistleblowers. Kind of an interesting thought on that in itself. It appears that Mr. Luft sought whistleblower status from you in an effort to defend himself from criminal prosecution while a fugitive from justice. Worse yet, this latest episode also raises concern that Mr. Luft may be manipulating your investigation not only for his own self-interest, but perhaps also in furtherance of the CCP's efforts to undermine U.S. Security interests in the President of the United States. They further wrote that Mr. Luft's status discredited the rest of the investigation. This recent revelations naturally raised broader concerns about the credibility of motivations, and other purported whistleblowers and congressional Republicans have relied on the support unfounded on the basis of allegations. Sadly, the Luft episode severely undermines the credibility and critical function of whistleblowers in this body, wrote the members. They demanded Mr. Comer provide committee Democrats with everything that Mr. Luft had supplied, noting that Mr. Comer had not yet shared any of those materials. Mr. Comer was requesting that the materials from the FBI's 2019 Brussels interview with Mr. Luft responded with a statement questioning their motives and urged Democrats to likewise look into what the FBI actually uncovered. It's astonishing that Ranking Member Raskin and Rep. Dan Goldman didn't mention that the Bidens received millions through the shell companies, through the same CCP-linked company that paid Gal Luft. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden have planned to share their office with the CCP-linked company, CEFC. Gal Luft is a credible witness in the Biden's influence peddling schemes because he, too, was getting paid by the same shady company. If Democrats deem Mr. Luft is untrustworthy because he is getting money from CEFC, then why should we trust the Bidens, who also received money from CEFC? Democrats have either been duped by Bidens or they are intentionally misleading the American people. Democrats should join us in requesting the FBI's record memorializing its interview with Gal Luft to get to the bottom of the claims about the Bidens. He stated, the Biden's family financial dealings are also being investigated by the Ways and Means Committee. The committee chair, Jason Smith, last month released 14 hours of interviews with 2 IRS whistleblowers, which revealed that Mr. Hunter Biden had in excess of $8 million unreported income that came from Ukraine, China, and Russia. Rep. Greg Murphy, member of the committee, told Fox today that the sooner or later everything would come into the open. It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up at some point sooner than later. They can only cover so much until somebody absolutely cracks. So, what when it comes down to it, we've been saying this for a while, that this is actually a thing that has actually happened, that the corruption from in and around Hunter Biden and his dealings with places like Ukraine, China, and or Russia really are a thing, and they're coming for him. They're coming for him. It's happening. It's going to happen real quick here. It's going to happen faster than you actually expect. Wife of U.S. attorney prosecuting missing Biden witness worked for Obama Foundation. Oh, really? He worked for Obama's foundation. No big deal. We'll just give you a job wherever you like. Good thing you're backing Democrats. Backing Democrats at all means is always a good thing. It's always a good thing. The wife of U.S. attorney who is prosecuting whistleblowers accused President Joe Biden of corruption worked for director in education of Obama Foundation until November 2020, according to LinkedIn profile. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams' wife, Jennifer Wynn, worked with the Obama Foundation for over 3 years, and her husband is now prosecuting a whistleblower who alleges Biden and his family have corrupt ties to China's military, according to the video exclusively obtained by the New York Post. Israeli professor Dr. Gal Luft is a crucial witness for the Republicans in their Biden family corruption investigation, according to a Wall Street Journal. Williams, in the United States Attorney of the Southern District of New York, is prosecuting Luft on offenses related to willfully failing to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, arms trafficking, Iranian sanctions violations, and making false statements in federal agents, according to the press release. So, they're actually really trying to go after Luft as much as they possibly can to actually, give him the charges, as opposed to trying to give the charges to anybody else that might actually, be the ones that should get those said charges. Wynn has also been the assistant professor at NYU Stern School of Business since 2018. During an event with fellow professor Dolly Koff, where Koff discussed her book titled "The Person You Mean to Be: How Good People Fight Bias." Wynn joked, "If I'm not woke, I'm waking, right? I'm getting there." Nope. There's a total difference between being awake and being woke. Liv brought information to the FBI officials in 2019 as he alleged was covered up and said, "I, who volunteered to inform the U.S. government about the potential security breach and about compromising information about the man vying to be the next president, I'm now being hunted by the very same people who I informed, and I may have to live on the run for the rest of my life." So now he's actually, he's scared. He's super scared. He knows that he needs to actually get away, run away from anything and everything that's coming after him, because they're gonna, I wouldn't be surprised if Luke doesn't come up missing or on a live tier within a short bit. I give him a week or two. I really do. Luft was arrested in Cyprus in February and prevent him from testifying in front of the House and Oversight Committee on the Biden's family alleged ties to the Chinese military intelligence. He said in the video following his release of bail, Luke fled and is currently a fugitive, according to the press release from the Department of Justice. Republican Kentucky Rep. James Comer told Fox News host Maria Bartiromo in May that Luft was missing. The DOJ claims that Luft's think tank, the Institute of Analysis and Global Security, received a minimum of $700,000 from CEFC China Energy started in 2015, which is the same Chinese firm that allegedly sent millions to the council connected to Hunter Biden and his associates in 2017. According to a Senate committee reported in the Washington Post reviewing Biden documents, Luft was interviewed by the FBI and allegedly provided information about the Bidens and CEFC. Coomer, in his statement on Tuesday, according to the Wall Street Journal, the House Oversight Committee intends to obtain these records at the FBI. He also said that the DOJ has done nothing but to cover up the Bidens for years. Williams, formerly clerk to the Attorney General Merrick Garland, who has been a federal appellate judge, according to the New York Times. He also worked with prominent Democrats, including the field organizer for then Senator John Kerry during his presidential campaign in 2003, and then chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Terry McAuliffe, in 2004 as his driver, assistant, and aide. Wynn did not immediately respond to the Daily Caller's News Foundation request for comment. The DOJ declined to comment. DOJ is going to refuse to comment anyway. They don't want. They're not going to give away any information on where they're going, how they're actually going to obtain this guy, what they're going to do to Luft, why they would actually want to actually bring him up on so many charges when they know dang well that it's not just Luft that's the issue. Luft is the one that came forward to actually try pointing out the fact of where these things, what things were going on, where monies were actually going. For him to actually, be labeled as not a whistleblower because they feel and deem it necessary to do such a thing is wrong in itself and should never actually be able to happen. Exclusive House GOP is about to drop a massive report alleging that the Biden's DHS chief broke the law. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mark Green is set to release a lengthy report detailing the initial findings in a probe of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas that details ways he believes he broke the law. He told the Daily Caller Foundation in an exclusive interview. Green launched a probe into Mayorkas on June 14th. Initial phase focusing on DHS Secretary's alleged dereliction of duty. Green says the more than 100 pages of findings from the first phase of the ongoing probe will be released within the next couple of weeks. The list of everything that we've learned so far in phase one, the dereliction of duty phase, will be published here very shortly. In fact, I'm proofing the final document, which is like 111 pages, but the laws are violated. In some cases, we believe that Mayorkas has broken law himself. I believe Mayorkas has broken the law himself. I believe that Mayorkas and probably almost everybody else in this current administration really seriously needs to actually be looked at and maybe brought up on some kind of charge in some kind of way. I really don't think that whatever is happening is really fair in any way, shape, or form. Green cited several instances where the believes Mayorkas has committed intentional and willful dereliction of duty. He said, referring to DHS uses CBP one phone application to allow tens of thousands of migrants to enter the country each month through ports of entry to the southern border. He also believes Mayorkas lied to Congress when he asserted the DHS with operational control on the U.S.-Mexico border. There's the line to Congress. There's a CBP one app, which is just a big shell game to produce automatic mass parole in violation of the laws passed by Congress. It is a wanton disregard for separation of powers in the Constitution of the United States. There's also sort of negligent dereliction of duty. He admitted in the Senate that he didn't understand the cartel strategy, despite the fact that Merrick Garland very clearly understood it when he testified. If you're the guy who's in charge of Homeland Security and protecting the borders and going against the cartels, you probably ought to understand the major strategies of the drug cartels. Green said, referring to Mayorkas seemingly not knowing about cartel or wristbands used to track migrants crossing the southern border when previously pressed by Republican Texas Senator Ted Cruz. I hope they actually do go after Merrick Garland as much as they possibly can for all of the dumb things that he's actually done. As the Department of Homeland Security is done absolutely zero things with our southern border. They don't want anything to do with it. They just want to leave it wide open. Whoever wants to come in, come on in. Come on in. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room. Let's go, is what they're saying. So then kind of move on a little bit. So Trump appointed judge overseeing documents case rejects special counsel plea. The federal judge overseeing the former President Donald Trump's classified documents case has handed the prosecutorial team some bad news. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump, turned down the request from special counsel Jack Smith's team not to delay the preliminary hearing in the case involving both Trump and his valet, Walt Nauta, that is initially scheduled for Friday. Cannon agreed to reschedule the hearing until July 18th, according to ABC News. Nauta's attorney, Stanley Woodard, had requested a delay due to the timing conflict with the bench trial. He was attended to as defense counsel of the defendant charged with Justice Department's investigation of the J6 Capitol attack. Jay Bratt, who was the lead federal prosecutor in Smith's team, opposed the delay, arguing in his brief there is a strong public interest in the conference occurring as originally scheduled and the case proceeding as expeditiously as possible. They're going to push for this to actually, get pushed through as fast as they possibly can. They don't want things to actually go too much longer. Trump, on the other hand, would rather it actually go past 2024, because then he would actually potentially become the next president of the United States. And if he does, would have the abilities to actually go ahead and remove any and all charges that come towards him, and exonerate himself of any wrongdoings whatsoever, if there were any. Cannon's ruling came as the Trump's legal team made a nighttime court filing on Monday seeking to delay the trial until after 2024 election. Trump currently leads the GOP field by double digits, according to the polls. Smith has already argued in a filing that he wants to go to trial in December because he said the case involves straightforward theories of liability and does not present novel questions of fact or law. Smith charged Trump with 37 counts related to his alleged mishandling of classified documents. The former president has pleaded not guilty to all counts. Last week, investigative reporter Paul Sperry claimed to have seen new evidence that the August 2022 raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate by the FBI was indeed political, and called out Bratt by name. In another sign of Mar-a-Lago raid was political, the DOJ prosecutor who authorized it, DNC donor and Russiagate alum Jay Bratt, blacked out every reference to Trump cooperating with subpoenas from the publicly released search warrant affidavit. New court docs reveal. So redact everything that he was cooperating with to make it look like he wasn't cooperating whatsoever. Just go ahead and redact it all. It doesn't matter. It's all good. In follow-up tweets, he noted that the warrant acknowledged that additional documents bearing classification markings have been produced in the government as response to the grand jury subpoena, and that page 18, it says Trump agreed to accept service of the grand jury subpoena. Page 21, he said the warrant notes that documents were produced pursuant to the grand jury subpoena, again appearing to signify that Trump was cooperating and that conducting a high-profile raid was not necessary. As for the case itself, in the brief, Trump's legal team contended that the Department of Justice case raises untested legal inquiries concerning the client's entitlement to preserve documents according to the Presidential Records Act. Additionally, the lawyers highlighted the challenge for impaneling an impartial jury with a defendant as a presidential candidate. Proceeding the trial during the during the pendency of the presidential election cycle, wherein opposing candidates are effectively, if not literally, directly adverse to one another in this action will create extraordinary challenges in the jury selection process and limit the defendant's ability to secure a fair and impartial adjudication, Trump's legal team wrote. Here, there are simply no question any trial of this action during the pendency of the presidential election will impact both of the outcome of the election and, importantly, the ability of the defendants to obtain a fair trial. They also pointed to the long pretrial discovery phase involving a significant number of documents, many of which are classified. So when it comes down to it, he's not going to get a fair trial no matter what. Trump is funny. Yeah, he kind of is. Garland needs a throat punch. You want to do it? You want to do it yourself, or you want somebody else to do it for you? Trump is kind of funny. He's kind of strange. He's got his own ways of doing things. And if they can actually continue to actually push this out as long as they possibly can, past 2024, they're going to try. They're going to continue to try to do whatever they can. As far as this goes, being that they're actually trying to stop anything from occurring to give him a fair trial, I don't see the fair trial happening. He was the president of the United States. Everybody knows who the heck he was. Everybody has a pre-diagnosed condition about how they feel about him. Seriously, you either you feel one way or the other. It's not both. It's not both. You don't. So swinging back and forth on that, it really isn't a thing. It's usually you're a Trump advocate, or you're totally against anything and everything he's about, and you call him Orange Man Bad. He's not going to get a fair trial. There's no way. No way he's going to get a fair trial. They're going to have to actually try pushing this out as much as they possibly can. Try getting it all the way out into 2024, which it's a long ways away when you think about it. It's a long ways away, but yet not that far, right? Kind of move on a little bit. Some Democrats worried about Cornel West's third-party 2024 bid. So this guy Cornel West actually running for a third-party bid. Really kind of it hinders Democrats when it comes down to it. Democratic officials and strategists have publicly expressed reservation about the former Harvard University professor Cornel West, his 2024 presidential bid. This is not the time in order to experiment. This is not the time to play around with margins, warned Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison, a close ally to President Joe Biden, over the weekend, according to reports. After Hillary Clinton was defeated by former President Donald Trump in 2016 campaign, some Democrats claim that the Green Party nominee, Jill Stein, caused Ms. Clinton to lose the presidency. Ms. Stein drew more than 460,000 votes, or about 1% of the popular vote during the election. In 2016, the Green Party played an outsized role in tipping the election to Donald Trump, wrote David Axelrod, a former Obama administration strategist, in the Twitter post. He echoed Mr. Harrison's statement is saying that with Cornel West as the Green Party's likely nominee, they could easily do it again. Risky business. As he runs for progressive campaign seeking the Green Party nomination, Mr. West's platform is centered around left-wing proposals, and some have said that he could cut into presidential Joe Biden's 2024 bid among younger voters and black voters. Mr. West, who is black, also has been sharply critical of the United States and NATO involvement in Ukraine following Russia's invasion last year. In the comments over the weekend, Mr. Harrison has said that he believes that Mr. West is only running to stay relevant. What we see is a lot of folks who want to be relevant and try to be relevant in these elections and not looking at the big picture. He said, reiterating, we got to re-elect Joe Biden. No, we don't. No, we don't. Nobody needs that. Nobody wants that. Nobody seriously wants Kamala Harris to even be there at all. Uh, However, not all Democrats believe Mr. West will be a deterrent to Mr. Biden's chances. Rep. O'Connor, the former campaign co-chair for Senator Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign, told Politico that the third party candidate may ultimately help Mr. Biden, saying that he will bring more people into the process and push for progressive policies. The U.S. has a long history of issue candidates who run in order to bring attention to important principles and ideas. I welcome Cornel West entering the race to make the country more just for all, he told the outlet. But Mr. Khanna said that he wasn't endorsing Mr. West and is supporting the president's reelection chances. As for Mrs. Stein, she told Forbes magazine last week that Mr. West is self-described socialist and is the right person for America during the 2024 contest. In an interview over the past weekend, she also said she doesn't believe he is responsible for Mrs. Clinton's 2016 loss, saying that nobody owns our votes. Initially, Mr. West said in June that he would run as a member of the People's Party, but later said that he would compete with the Green Party's nomination. In these bleak times, I've decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for president of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I entered the quest for truth. I entered the quest for justice. And the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all my life. West is a well-known author and former professor of Harvard and Princeton Universities, previously criticized former President Barack Obama as a war criminal, because he is, and supported Mr. Sanders as Democratic Socialist in his presidential bids in 2016-2020. On his campaign website, West says that he wants to end wars, disband NATO, forgive all student debt, expand Social Security, invest in green energy. Third-party candidates face serious hurdles, including getting their names on ballots in each state. Not every state's going to actually put everybody on the ballot. Not every single state's going to actually put everybody on the ballot. If you don't make yourself on the ballot, you don't get a vote. Now, in addition to Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, several other candidates have launched 2024 presidential bids. Several weeks ago, former Vice President Mike Pence officially launched a campaign, joined the GOP primary field, and already included the former president, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley, tech and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Amid the criticism over the presidential bid, Mr. West has defended his decision during a political interview because Mr. Sanders, according to him, is treated unjustly and unfairly by the Democratic Party. The lesson that I learned was that the Democratic Party, for the most part, is a corporate-dominated party that uses the progressives often as window dressing. Bernie was not given the kind of chance that he deserved, which is to say our efforts were not given the kind of fair chance that they deserved. Then he claimed that Mr. Trump and Mr. DeSantis, whose polls showed number 1 and number 2 respectively, in the GOP field will be enabled by the Democratic Party's refusal to speak to the needs of the poor and working people. So basically what it comes down to is we could actually see Cornel West actually jump into the game with his thoughts and his ideals that are there, would actually take away from the voting pool, according to what they're saying, the voting pool that would normally be voting for the Democrats or Joe Biden, he would take those votes, not necessarily taking anything from Trump, but taking everything that he possibly could from Democrat, which would give Trump potentially the one up over and above the other two. It's kind of a strange ordeal to actually see. I'm not really a proponent for Mr. Cornel West, really not. But at the same time, hey, Maybe he is better off than the rest of them. Maybe he's a better guy than the rest of them. Maybe he's better off than having Joe Biden. Uh, you know the thing. So then, because if you're talking about presidential runs, is this the closest indication yet that Joe Manchin could be running for president? Of course, Joe Manchin's going to try running for president. Why wouldn't he? I'm surprised he hasn't already put his foot in the race already. This upcoming move from Senator Joe Manchin has increased the chatter that he's running for president, or at least considering it. As the Daily Mail reported, Manchin will headline a No Labels event next Monday in an early voting state of New Hampshire at St. Anselm's College. The former honorary co-chair will be headlining along with former Governor John Huntsman, Republican out of Utah, in a town hall meeting. As the report further detailed, as next week's event in New Hampshire, No Labels is launching into the Common Sense Agenda, which includes the debut of policy booklet that offers 30 ideas to tackle America's challenges, including the federal budget, immigration, energy, inflation, education, and the nation's global standing. The event in the town hall, according to No Labels, will give the American public to see two leaders practice what they preach, taking part in meaningful dialogue across party lines to address the pressing issues that our country faces, the group said. That American public happens to be in the New Hampshire, a state that holds first nominating contests in the presidential primary system. It is an important early forecaster for a presidential race. The town hall is No Label's first major public appearance in the presidential stage as it explores running a third-party candidate. It's no secret that such a run has worried Manchin's fellow Democrats, as I mentioned in the report of Plenty More. Manchin, who is yet to give a direct answer to whether or not he is running for president or for re-election, has often spoken about the importance of coming together to the middle of having Plan B option. The Daily Mail mentions many Democrats, however, are worried a third-party candidate would siphon votes from Biden and propel the Trump to victory. And some of them started concentrating an effort to stop No Labels in its tracks. Former House Democrat leader Richard Gephardt has launched a new bipartisan group next week to oppose No Labels' effort. The Washington Post reported, citing sources familiar, signing it on board with former Democrat Senator Doug Jones, who is close to Biden, the Republican strategist Stuart Stevens, who has worked with Mitt Romney and George W. Bush. Other party officials are storming the Capitol Hill to try and kill off talk of the third-party contender. Officials from the progressive group Move On and the centrist group Third Way plan to brief Senate Democratic chiefs and the staff of July 27, Politico reported. The invite tells chiefs of staff that two groups want to share their information that they have on No Labels. Third Way, in its analysis and the role of the third-party candidate would play in the 2024 election, found that a No Labels ticket cannot win the presidency and will be spoiler that reelects Trump. So Green Party, No Labels, Third Way, Democrat, Republican, Independent. How many different places? How many different groups of people do we need? How many different? Great, let's do it. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's go ahead and let's bring in some other parties that we've never heard of before. They could actually bring up different candidates. You got No Label, you got Third Way, you got Joe Manchin, you got Connor West going ahead and running up against Trump and Biden, taking away all votes from either one of them. I'm fine with it. Let's go. Let's have fun. Let's what the hell? It's very interesting to see how far we're actually going with all this. So there you go, Joe Manchin. Massachusetts Democrats introduced one of the worst anti-Second Amendment bills in the country, extensive firearm restrictions. Democratic Party in Massachusetts introduced one of the strictest gun control bills ever seen in the United States and would take away civil liberties. In an act modernizing firearm laws, HD 4420, often dubbed as the Lawful Citizen Imprisonment Act by the gun rights advocates, was introduced by Democrat Rep. Michael Day of Stoneham, and the stem of the flow of illegal firearms into the Commonwealth, and it increased protections from gun violence for our communities. We're not trying to go after the criminalized proper license holders, people who are responsible for carrying a firearm. This is really intending to get to those who are evading our code of laws through the advancement of technology and criminal behavior. The 140-page document proposes sweeping changes in the state's gun control laws. It aims to redefine assault-style firearms, broaden the term of firearm, and prescribe stringent storage of registration regulations for guns. Here's a rundown of critical provisions of HD 4420 per gun owners in America. Redefine an assault-style firearm. There's no such thing. Assault-style firearm does not exist. It is improper terminology when it comes down to it. Stop it, quit being morons. Redefine firearm is proposed definition extends to include stun guns. Stun guns are now firearms. Oh, wonderful. There you go. Perfect. You can't even electrocute each other now. Mandatory safe storage. The bill prescribes storage procedures mandating guns to be locked away. Mandatory registration. The bill's necessities of registration for all guns and their feeding devices. Really, seriously, go ahead. Mandatory registrations. It goes totally against the Second Amendment and everything that it's about. They're just going to continue to push and push and push to disarm us. Because why? It's easier to control people that are disarmed. Reporting the parts modification, gun owners would need to report any modifications to their firearms. Serialization of gun magazines. Guns that feed in devices would need to be serialized. Ban in under 21 ownership. The bill proposes a ban on individuals under 21 from acquiring or carrying semi-automatic rifles or shotguns. Most states, whatever, even the ones that actually have gun laws in play, say age of 14 for shotguns, so that way you can actually go hunting. Apparently, you don't need to feed yourself until you're 21 nowadays. New requirements for retailers. The bill imposes new conditions for firearms retailers. Training mandates. New training requirements for gun owners are proposed. If you're not taking firearm carry classes, whatever, they're going to actually make you take firearm carry classes. Additional prohibited areas. The bill introduces more areas where licensed individuals cannot carry firearms. Once you're licensed and you can actually carry a gun, whatever, there should be no stipulation on where you can actually carry it, as you're actually properly trained, as we know that most of the crimes that are actually committed out in this world are not those of the people that are actually licensed. It is actually criminals that will still continue to be able to obtain their own guns. And many more restrictions, penalties, and imprisonments will be imposed for those who violate on some of the new mandates and restrictions. It has become law that 10% of the Commonwealth's population would become criminals and enemies of the state overnight. The bill is so egregious that it is impossible to amend, so don't try, according to the largest gun owners advocacy group in Massachusetts. This is a ring of dinner bell for violent criminals to flock to Massachusetts because we will all be defenseless, including domestic violence victims, the elderly, people of marginalized communities, even off-duty law enforcement. Everyone's safety in the Commonwealth will be compromised, the group added. It is overwhelming. No lawful citizen would be able to comply with the passes. Nobody. These laws are more convoluted. They didn't streamline the process like they said they were going to do. The Gun Owners of America, working with collaboration of the Gun Owners Action League in Massachusetts, are leading the charge against the bill. They're established a web page to keep track of the developments of HD 4420 and have called for the support to voice opposition to the legislation. Below is the goal summary of the anti-Second Amendment bill, which is a fairly lengthy bill in itself. That is available if anybody is actually interested in actually looking at it. Maybe this particular article will actually be saved. I'll actually throw it Discord somewhere. Iowa passes heartbeat bill, bans most abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Yay! Something actually halfway decent. All right, way to go, Iowa, for passing the heartbeat bill. This is once there's a heartbeat, you can no longer abort the baby. So, you know, I mean, something that we could potentially be okay with. Iowa Republicans passed legislation late Tuesday night that bans most abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. The bill, which bans abortions after the baby's heartbeat can be detected, was passed just after 11 p.m. during the special session. Exceptions can be made to save the mother's life, miscarriages, or fetal abnormalities that the doctor determines to be incompatible with life. There are also exceptions for cases of graping or incest, provide that the graping was reported to law enforcement and the physician within 45 days or 140 days in the case of incest. Republican government Kim Reynolds had called the special session the purpose of enacting legislation that would protect life. Lawmakers and members of the public debated the measure of approximately 15 hours as pro-abortion protesters caused a scene outside the chamber. I'm happy for them. I'm glad that they actually were able to get to the point of actually doing such a thing. What's up, Tweety? How you doing, dear? And actually, you know, passing a law that it doesn't allow them to actually unalive the child up until birth and or the mom. I'm glad that they're not like Minnesota and they actually did something a little bit different. I'm going to skip this one. California Democrats blocked bill making trafficking of minors a serious felony. They blocked the bill. They blocked the bill. Out of all the things that we've been talking about in the last few days, with this movie coming out and all the stuff that's happening, California and their ignorant asses have actually gone to the point of actually blocking this bill. It's okay to traffic children, according to them. Democrats on the California Assembly Public Safety Committee have blocked the bill that would make trafficking of minors a serious felony. The inexplicable move was met with outrage of human trafficking victims who have been advocating for the bill. The bill, HB 14, noted that California consistently ranks number one in the nation in the number of human trafficking cases related to human. National Human Trafficking Hotline. Human trafficking is among the world's fastest growing criminal enterprise. It is estimated about $150 billion a year global industry. The legislation would have made human trafficking a minor subject to California's three-strike law. Under the law, someone convicted twice could be sentenced to life in prison. The bill would already pass unanimously in the state Senate. However, not even one of the 6 Democrats in the committee would vote on the bill. The only yes votes were cast by 2 Republicans, Assemblyman Juan Alanis and Tom Lackley. Los Angeles Democrat Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, the Assembly Public Safety Committee chairman, opposed the bill. GOP State Senator Shannon Grove, who has co-authored the bill, said that she had spoken with Democrats in the committee prior to the hearing. They all thought it was a good bill and said they would consider it, but there is an issue with the rolling in the chair, so I don't think anyone was going to stand up against the chair. You're horrible, yelled members of the audience at the meeting. Victims of human trafficking who attended the vote broke down in tears. You should be ashamed of yourselves, they shouted at the Democrats. I am profoundly disappointed that the committee of Democrats couldn't bring themselves to support the bill with the stubborn and misguided objection to the penalty to increase regardless of how heinous the crime. You can pass a note to a bank and rob a bank. You can't commit arson, and that's considered a serious felony. But to traffic a minor child in the state of California is not. That's wrong. Grove told KCRA 3 that she had tried 3 times to call John Sawyer in his cell phone, and her staff tried 6 to 7 times, but he could not meet with her. The Assembly member's office is aware of the single call from Senator Grove's staff to his legislative director on Friday, July 7th, To advise the senator had spoken to the Public Safety Committee's staff about amendments, Jones' Sawyer office stated. The conversation was brief, resulting in no changes in either office's position on the bill. The committee has also rejected their measure that would increase penalties in domestic violence offenders, rapists, and developmentally disabled children, and other sexually violent crimes. Y'all can talk to me, Say whatever you'd like. We're actually gonna get into some news as opposed to doing the politics. Politics is kind of hard to take sometimes. So we're gonna actually move on here slowly. According to Biden's AI czar, what is AI? AI is kind of a fancy thing, Harris said, hinting at the verbal mess that was to follow. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. The woman, one heartbeat away from the presidency, explained. But ultimately, what it is a machine learning, and so much machine. So the machine is taught. Saying the obvious, she doesn't know what the fuck AI is. She's totally ignorant to the point. She has no clue, but she's going to sit there and try telling you what it is anyway. And a part of the issue where it is what information is going on or going into the machine is that will then determine, and we can predict then if we think about what machine, what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process. We're not going to watch her. We're not going to watch her stumble and fumble. But she doesn't know. She has no clue. She has no clue. Another word salad from Cackling Kamala Harris. Thank you, Cackling Kamala Harris. Thank you so much. I'm going to actually look at these next couple and see if there's a couple things that I can kind of pass by. We're going to totally push ourselves up to this 3-hour mark. That one's kind of... Okay, we are into the news. Air Force officials probe $1 billion in land purchases surrounding Traverse Air Base by mysterious investment group. So then, a nice shot of Traverse Air Force Base in California. It says U.S. Air Force officials are investigating a series of major land purchases worth over $1 billion from Flannery Associates, LLC, a mysterious investment group. The Flannery Associates purchases amount to approximately 52,000 acres of land surrounding Travis Air Force Base in California. Investigators have failed to identify the backers behind the group after an 8-month investigation. Via Benzinga, we don't know who Flannery is, and their extensive purchases do not make sense to anybody in the area. Rep. John Garamendi, the top Democrat in the House Armed Services Committee Readiness Panel, told the Wall Street Journal. The fact that they're buying land purposely right up to the fence at Traverse raises significant questions. Yeah, sure it does. Of course it does. And you don't know who it is? You have no clues who Flannery Associates LLC is and who they're tied to, what they own, why they keep on buying up large swaths of land in and around close to U.S. Air Force bases. It doesn't make sense. It really seriously makes zero sense whatsoever when it comes down to it, and why such a company would want to actually do such a thing unless they were maybe had something to do with China. U.S. officials are investigating the purchase of 55,000 acres and dry farmland near the U.S. Air Force Base in California. A company called Flannery Associates, LLC, reportedly spent nearly $1 billion since 2018 acquiring land in the Solano County near the base. Travis Air Force Base, approximately 54 miles from San Francisco, houses large transportation aircraft used for refueling smaller planes and sending aid and munitions around the world. Authorities remain clueless on who's behind the company and why they acquired the land around the base. In May, Flannery Associates sued a group of California landowners for allegedly conspiring to inflate the price of the land in the Jepson Prairie and Montezuma Hills around the Solano County, California, between San Francisco and Sacramento. So, there's other companies that are actually trying to, stoke flames to actually see if they can't get more money. The group, fuck me. Yeah. Oh, crap. Of course. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. What the hell? What a bunch of bullcrap. So pissed off right now. This computer fucking sucks. Anyway, so there's Air Force officials, going after Travis Air Force Base with mysterious investments, trying to gather up swaths of land in and around the area, trying to do whatever it is that they can to actually gobble up that territory. What the hell? Okay. Slowly being fixed here. There's some audio issues that were still there were still some audio issues that were actually pushing themselves through. Okay, that's done with. What the fuck? I'm so pissed off right now. This computer's just trash. Private jets are descending in a small town airport for a summer camp, and billionaires kick off. So it's like all these billionaires that are actually out and about in this world, that actually like to actually hang out with each other on a regular basis. Like apparently they've actually made themselves up to Sunny Valley, Idaho, for a summer camp for billionaires. This is private jets have already begun piling up outside the small town of Sun Valley, Idaho, as some of the world's most powerful people head to Allen and Company's annual conference, who also known as the summer camp for billionaires. The Friedman Memorial Airport has already begun experiencing delays from the traffic ahead of the event, which is set to kick off on Wednesday, As Tuesday afternoon, the airport was experiencing inbound flight delays averaging about an hour to 55 minutes, or an hour and 55 minutes. And the flight tracking website Flight Aware reported flights departing from the airport don't appear to be affected. So kind of an interesting little thought. A bunch of airplanes go and descend into a small little area, small town in Idaho, Sun Valley, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to yuck it up, have a good time. Look at all the nice, jets that are actually sitting there that they all just so happen to own, every single last one of them. Sorry, I'm a little pissed off, so this last bit's going to actually, fly. Tennessee soccer coach accused of filming himself drugging, graping boys is an illegal alien? A man accused of filming himself graping unconscious boys whom was allegedly drugged is an illegal alien living in the United States. The Franklin, Tennessee Police Department confirms. As Breitbart News reported, 63-year-old soccer coach Camilo Campos was arrested and charged in Franklin County this week for allegedly drugging and abusing multiple young boys from 9 to 17. Campos allegedly filmed the assaults on the cell phone. On Wednesday, police confirmed that Campos was an illegal alien who lived in the area for about 20 years. Really? For about 20 years? For about 20 years, you're an illegal alien? Nobody questioned you whatsoever. You were able to just, go ahead on with your life. Campos was arrested after he left his phone in a local pizza parlor in Franklin County on June 22nd. Employees went through the phone and gathered information about the owner, and the employees said that they found videos and photos of child abuse and thus called the police. During the immediate and tireless investigation, detectives found hundreds of disturbing videos and pictures on the phone. In many of them, Campos recorded himself graping unconscious boys between approximately 9 and 17, while 3 of the 10 victims seen in the recorded abuse were initially identified by police. Another 5 have come forward to accuse Campos of drugging and graping them. According to the police, Campos' child abuse likely dates back many years, as he allegedly frequently searched for boys to join his soccer team at local schools and playgrounds. Campos is being held in Franklin County Jail. His next court date is July 25th. Disgusting. Deport him immediately. I don't care how long he's been living here. He's an alien, an illegal alien in itself. He should actually be removed from this country immediately for the things that he's done to these children that have to live with it for the rest of their lives. 8-year-old arrested for allegedly stealing car at gunpoint. An 8-year-old was arrested in Alabama for allegedly stealing a car at gunpoint around 11 a.m. Tuesday when refusing to pull over for police. Now, this is another thing out of Alabama. And when it comes down to it, did the computer poop again? Yep. It decided to wanted to heat itself completely for whatever reason. It sucks, and hopefully I can actually get that fixed in the near future. I just need some funds to do so. Either way, 8-year-old arrested in Alabama. What I was going to say is, because it's in Alabama, hopefully this is actually, I guess not. I'm hoping not, but at the same time, hopefully this is actually true, as the last thing that happened with 4 people out of Alabama apparently was not true, as they were actually jumping off of the back of a boat. Never happened. The New York Post noted that no injuries in the accident resulted in 8-year-old's arrest, and that the gun was recovered at the scene. The witness of the alleged car theft said, "Whenever I realized it was a little boy, I knew I had to follow them and make sure that no one got hit, and that he got caught, because I don't want him driving all over Montgomery, causing more accidents or hurting himself or hurting other people." The witness added, "I think parents just really need to know where the kids are. What are kids doing? And just talk to them about these kinds of things." The 8-year-old was charged with first-degree robbery and is being held in Montgomery County Youth Detention Facility. Hawkins is an award-winning Second Amendment columnist. Oh, we don't need to read that. So an 8-year-old, being charged with first-degree robbery, being detained, held in a youth detention center, probably be held for for what it is, probably be held for the rest of his young life until he turns 18, where he'll maybe be released. It depends on what he's all done, and if they can actually let him off on any of these charges whatsoever. It's really sad and disturbing to actually think that these parents have zero things to do with this young man. You can see, even though it's blurred out, what this, that this young man is just that. He's a little boy that needs parents to actually look after him. Apparently, he doesn't have one of those. Correction officer watching surveillance video sounded alarm on Pennsylvania inmate escaped in seconds. The surveillance. So this we reported on this Michael Burnham yesterday, the day before, one of the two, that he had actually got himself out of this Pennsylvania prison with some bed sheets, broke through a window, crawled through, got himself out. And he's still on the lam. They're still looking for him. Surveillance cameras caught inmate Michael Burnham's escape from the jail in northwestern Pennsylvania last week. Warren County Commissioner Jeff Eggleston in the news conference Wednesday. Burnham was in the recreation yard, a 40 feet by 40 feet space in the top floor of Warren County's jail last Thursday night with 3 other inmates. They're being watched on video, according to Eggleston, who said it was their designated gym time. And the amount of time that he got out, of that roof was quicker than anybody could respond to get inside the room. Eggleston said it only took Burnham seconds to climb workout equipment, get through the chain link roof, drop into the permanent roof, and then lower himself from the building top with a rope made of sheets. The commissioner said later the alarm was sounded by a corrections officer watching the video of Burnham escaping. Pennsylvania State Police Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens said that the news conference with law enforcement officials that they were investigating reports where the drone immediately adjacent to the jail at the time of the late night escape. I'm not a big believer in coincidences, he said, before adding that it was possible there could be an innocent explanation for a drone to be near the building. Authorities said Tuesday evidence leads to the belief that Burnham is still in the area and possibly getting help in his bid to evade the 200 law enforcement officers looking for him. When asked Wednesday whether investigators were interviewing the possible accomplices, Bivens answered simply, yes. Burnham has been described as armed and dangerous. He's military reserve experience and possesses survivalist skills. Officials have said he is in jail in connection with arson and burglary case and was a suspect in a homicide. Bivens told reporters Wednesday his additional information that he gleaned recently that causes me to have additional concerns that we may be armed. Jail operations and conditions are under review. Be assured that the Warren County is conducting a rigorous internal investigation. Warren County Commissioner Ben Caffrin told reporters, we're reviewing every second of the video surveillance, taking statements, reviewing timestamps, tagout sheets, and interviewing every individual who may have information whether they are inside or outside the jail. Eggleston has explained in further detail how Burnham escaped. The beams then held the chain fence down over the recreation yard were broken, creating holes where he was able to escape. The jail is evaluated on a regular basis by the Department of Corrections. We already discussed that we're going to allocate money to expand the security on the roof complex and deterrence associated with it. Believe me, no one is ever going to think of trying to climb out of there ever again. Eggleston deflected many questions about the involvement by jail staffers, saying repeatedly, it is part of a criminal investigation. The Warren County Commissioners are in charge of the budget associated with the jail and are also part of the prison board and sets policy for the prison. The commissioners are also responsible for prison staff. This is the first successful jailbreak, Eggleston said, despite several other attempts. We're on a witch hunt, but we are going to seek justice, including if that means with our employees. Catherine said Pennsylvania law requires them to keep any staff disciplinary actions confidential, and commissioners added. There are no staff shortages at the time. The jail employs 48 guards. At the time of Burnham's escape, the jail was housing 87 detainees. The facility can hold up to 140. Warren County is in northern Pennsylvania, not far from the border with New York. The city of Warren is just outside of Allegheny National Forest. Items continue to be discovered during the days-long manhunt. Bivens, who has said Tuesday none of the reported sightings of Burm have panned out, told reporters Wednesday there are sightings that we believe are accurate. They're waiting for the results and testings to add to the confidence in the witnesses have actually been Burm. Officials have said that they have found stuff that they believe is connected to him. We continue to find items. Those lead me to believe that there is still likelihood that he is here, Bivens told reporters Tuesday, without providing details. Some of those items have been found in the past 24 hours. I also look at the absence of proof that he has gone anywhere else. Bivens said Wednesday they have found more items in the days since. Authorities have also gone to cabins and other buildings that apparently have been burglarized, but there's no DNA evidence that Burnham has been or during his 5+ days on the run. 5 days. 5 days. He's been out of this jail for a better part of 5 days. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Nah, this is a nationwide search now. There's no way that they're going to actually allow this guy to continue to be an escapee. They're gonna actually do whatever they can to actually find him. Though he is actually military and a survivalist, which will actually help him out, in his time of actually being on the run. He's not going to like it once he's actually caught and obtained. He's not going to like it whatsoever. Let's see. 3 dead, 14 injured in Illinois highway exit collision. Multi-vehicle crash with 3 people were injured, 14 others in Illinois on Wednesday. The incident took place shortly after 2 a.m. local time when a Greyhound bus was headed west on Interstate 70 near Highland, Illinois. According to the state police, the bus collided with 3 parked big rigs situated at the exit ramp leading to the rest area. Emergency services responded to the scene and 4 individuals were airlifted to the hospital, while at least 10 others were transported by ambulance. The cause of the crash was under investigation. The victims were not yet identified. He got too close. These semis were parked on the shoulder. It gave him just a little bit, not enough space, and whatever actually did happen, I feel bad for those that lost lives. It's very sad and very disturbing. Again, that was Highland, Illinois. Mika Brzezinski. We're gonna play you last, lady. Python cowboy kills invasive snake, makes stunning discovery inside. Python snake was actually picked up out of the Florida Everglades. This man called the Python cowboy killed an invasive snake in the Florida Everglades and made a stunning discovery inside, according to the Facebook post on photo. Mike Kimmel, the python sniffing dog, auto captured and euthanized a 16-foot Burmese python that was pregnant with over 60 eggs. I would almost think that some activists may actually, see this and actually might actually do something about that, being that it was actually pregnant with over 60 eggs, which, though it's an invasive species and maybe not supposed to actually live in around that area. I don't know if it's something that's natural to the area. I really don't think they are. I really don't think they're a natural phenomenon in that area. I could tell he is gravid with eggs after having opened her up by how fat the base of her tail was. Also, a clear indicator that they are ready to be laid. Who's known as social media as, or Kimmel, who's known as social media as Python Cowboy, told Newsweek, "I did not get an official weight on the snake, but she was easily over 100 pounds. Burmese pythons are a threat to Everglades ecosystem where they prey on birds, mammals, and reptiles such as alligators, according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Females can lay anywhere between 50 and 100 eggs at a time. A removal like this is absolutely crucial for our native wildlife and the ecosystem and will make a difference," Kimmel said on the Facebook. A python this size can eat anything in the Everglades, as I've proven with the multiple adult alligators I've rescued from being eaten by pythons 3 separate times. These invasive snakes are now the top of the food chain until man and dog intervene. A very interesting kind of story to start wrapping up this night on or whatever. Uh, invasive species. So basically, what it comes down to, the way I'm looking at it, is because it's considered an invasive species, it's not something that's naturally found there. It means that there's people that are actually housing these pythons as pets, and once they get to the point where they don't want them any longer, they just let them go. They just let them go. And survival expert. Yes, that guy was a survival expert. Pure Evil. Latest Disney production is cartoons about a girl who inherits a ritualistic killing, blood drinking cult from her father. I'm not playing the video. I think we can get a gist of this. You can see some of the symbolism in and around all of it. Praise Petey is set to premiere July 21st in a freeform with first 2 episodes. Then 2 episodes will drop weekly following the premiere and will be available on Hulu the next day. Via Disney Plus Informer, conservatives are looking for ways to boycott the move to spending away from the woke corporations. Here's one way to do it. The series stars Annie Murphy, Schitt's Creek, John Cho, Cowboy Bebop, Kiersey Clemens, The Flash, Stephen Root, Barry, Amy Hill, Magnum PI, and Kristen Baranowski, The Good Fight. Praise Petey is from creative writer and executive producer Anna Dresden, former head writer for Saturday Night Live. Bandera Entertainment's Mike Judge, Greg Daniels, and Dustin Davis, along with Shadow Machine's Alex Buckley and Corey Campodonico and Monica Padrick, Central Park, serve as executive producers. The series is produced by Disney Television Studios 20th Century Animation, with animation by Shadow Machine. Freeform has released the first 2 trailers for its new adult animated comedy, Praise Petey, which follows how one modern woman will manage her deceased father's cult. The 2-minute first look teases New Yorker with it girl Petra, aka Petey, grappling with her life turning upside down when she must move from her big city life to a place called New Utopia. It is a community her father founded, only it's not like most. There's everyone's part in the cult. Even worse, they believe Petey's their prophesied savior. You being here means the prophecy of the great daughter return is fulfilled, John Cho's character says in the southern twang. Is this town doing okay? Petey asks before Kiersey Clemens' character responds, "Nah, we're starving." But Petey doesn't want to fulfill the prophecy of the daughter return. Instead, she wants to be girl boss her way out of this by undoing the stranglehold her father has on the small town. Cult's desperate followers, and Petey works to give the community back to its own agency. She'll discover how to find her own voice along the way. No more human sacrifice, as Petey dressed it in a midsummer like flower gown, tells Newtopia community members, I have a vision for a new utopia that is bright. Exactly. No thanks on the cult. Want nothing to do with it. I don't care if they're actually going to try to actually go away from the human sacrifice and actually make it a better place. For Disney to actually take themselves to the point of actually trying to produce such a thing in the first place is disgusting. It's not something that we should ever be looking at. We're going to get down to these last couple ones here, whatever. So, kiss me, tell me I'm fucking hot. Woman loses her absolute mind while getting dragged out of an airport. What's up, Great Liquor? Good to see you, brother. What's up on the crazy airport content lately? We're still fresh off the crazy. That motherfucker back there is not real, airplane lady, but we're having to shift our eyes to another crazy lady who lost all her marbles in tell me I'm fucking hot fashion. The video throws us right in the middle of a wacky scene where 4 security guards are trying to take control of a woman to carry her off the whole time. The woman is screaming like a lunatic. At one point, the woman starts yelling, "Come on, kiss me," after asking who was the head honcho. What? I'm not hot enough for you? I'm not hot enough? I'm not sexy enough, screams the lady before she ultimately spits on the one guard. Tell me I'm fucking hot. Tell me I'm sexy. Tell me. Security eventually got the hold of the situation, carrying the woman away while she screamed about the guards apparently breaking her bones and something about what they were doing with her bag. I don't know. She's a nut, but man, the entertainment value is pure. Okay, I'm going to stop this for a second so I can reshare that screen properly and show you this.
That's exactly what it's gonna do. Who's the head honcho here? You tell me. Come on, kiss me. Kiss me. And tell me who's the head honcho here. What, I'm not hot enough for you? I'm not hot enough? I'm not sexy enough? I'm just spit on you. Tell me I'm fucking hot. Tell me I'm fucking sexy. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Now control hold? Oh, animal control? Because I look like a mad woman and you're gonna break my bones? You're gonna break my bones, security? Security's gonna break my bones to get me to fucking shut up? What are you doing to me? What are you doing to my back? What are you doing to me? What are you doing to my back?
I just, what the, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? That's what they're going to actually take themselves to the point of being there. People are so insane. So insane these days. She's sweet. Yeah, go ahead. Should we tell her she's hot? Should we tell her that she's sexy? Because that's what she wants. That's what she wants, but she ain't getting it. She's just getting manhandled by multiple security guards that are ready to kick her the fuck out. They're like, get out. We don't want nothing to do with you. So bad. So bad. Two more things. We're almost done. The computer wouldn't have killed me. It would have probably been done already. Shots fired. Megan Rapinoe blasts Dave Chappelle for violence against transgender people. What a joke. No pun intended. Okay, maybe a little bit. Speaking of Time magazine, the pre-Women's World Cup featured United States national team star Megan Rapinoe said she had an issue with each Sage Steele Martina Navratilova and Dave Chappelle for opposing transgender women playing in female sports. I don't want to mince words about it, says Rapinoe. Dave Chappelle making jokes about trans people directly leads to violence, whether it's verbal or otherwise, against trans people. When Marina and Sage or whoever were talking about this, people aren't hearing it. It's just in the context of elite sports. They're saying the rest of my life, this is how I'm going to treat trans people. Rapinoe continued to express distaste at policies to target transgender athletes. It's particularly frustrating when women's sports is weaponized. Oh, now we care about fairness. Now we care about women's sports. That's total bullshit. And she show me all the trans people who are nefariously taking advantage of being trans in sports. It's just not happening. Rapinoe then went on to say that she would have no problem with transgender women playing on her team. Absolutely, said Rapinoe regarding the transgender player being a United States women's soccer team. We're taking real women's place. That's the part of the argument that's still extremely transphobic. I see trans women as real women. Okay, good for you. Glad you feel that way. Dave Chappelle sent culture into a frenzy in 2021 after he spoke with Transgender Issue on The Closer Netflix special, also defending J.K. Rowling in her takes on trans situations. I think we can play this.
I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean? I mean, which ones do they have? Which ones of those do they have, Mr. Chappelle? Can you tell me?
I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean? It tastes like pussy, but that's not quite what it is it?
It's not quite what it is. It might not. I doubt it tastes like it. I doubt it. Not going to be the one to try. Somebody want to tell me if it doesn't actually taste the same? Ladies?
It's not blood, that's beet juice.
Oh, disgusting. Why the camera pans to the audience is beyond me. Oh, Dave Chappelle is so hilarious. It's so hilarious. If I can get some donations tonight, I'll keep that in there. Otherwise, it might have to get edited out later. All right. Mika Brzezinski. Last thing. She goes scorched earth. And Joe Biden. We don't need to read it because everything that we would read would actually just cover what she actually says. The reactions are everything. Of course they are. Oh, it's so good. All right.
And with Reagan, they also managed to schedule very carefully.
Yeah, I think his staff needs to own his age. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think they do a good job helping out the president. And I'm not talking about it like, I'm just saying if you are managing a president's schedule and you are.
Whoa. Who's managing the president's schedule? Not the president? The president doesn't do all that? Are you sure? Not so sure.
Managing a president getting on stage and getting off stage and getting on planes and getting off planes. And yes, he's 80. You need to be there for him and you need to make a pathway. And you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall on a sandbag. And I blame the staff for that. I mean, these are the things that are going to hurt him. These are things that are going to be played on.
As she's saying that, the look on his face as he looks at that camera like, what the hell does she, what is she on? What is she even talking? Oh, how is this possible that they can orchestrate everything and actually know that that he was going to trip over a sandbag? They put it there on purpose. They didn't look to see that it was there and be like, okay, well, that could be potentially dangerous for this octogenarian president.
On a loop. Okay, let him do his job. Let him do his speeches. Let him work on policy. Let him do his connections in Congress, unlike any president that we've seen. I don't know, since Clinton. But my God, maybe.
I don't know. Since Clinton, no other president was that old that needed assistance. They could barely keep him standing up, saying a full sentence. That makes sense.
Make sure, your Secret Service, you're his staff, that you were there and you're telling him what's next. And it's not because, don't take this as, oh, he can't even get from one place to another. When you're busy and you're on stage, and we've been on stage, right. I've done speeches and I'm so nervous. I'm doing the speech. I'm trying to get it right. And when it's done, I don't know which way to go. And I'm looking for direction.
Really? You're just as incoherent as the president? You could do his job. Perfect. That's what we need. We need somebody else to go ahead and take over and do just that. Madcore Mofo over on the Rumble side says, wow, Rumble have chat in the app now? Yeah, boy. Awesome. That's exciting. Good to know.
So do a better job, because you can't have these video images of the president tripping or the president like going the wrong way. It's not going to work in this presidency because his age is going to be a factor. And it's your job to make sure he gets from one place to another. He can handle the presidency. You have to handle his schedule and where he goes.
Well, and the schedule.
Wait a minute here. How is he actually handling the presidency? I don't see that being the truth. You gonna lie to us some more? I don't see as he's handling it very well. I really don't. I don't see it. I don't think it's true. His face, he's begging, please stop.
It makes me mad.
The scheduling is so important. You have, with every president, you have different strengths, you have different weaknesses. If
no, cancel. We don't want that. So, for her to think that when it comes down to it, that he's so incapable of doing his own job, that he needs so much staff to look at all the things, like if there's a sandbag in the way, what he's actually doing, how he's doing at all points in time, makes me believe that he's not worth the time or the job. He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. It's not fair for them to actually continue to push that this octogenarian is okay for one thing, but not the next. That he needs assistance on everything that he does. He didn't go the wrong way. He went and got ice cream from the ice cream truck lady. Yeah, well, he did that too. For sure. All right, y'all. Nice 3-hour night. Thank you all so much for being here. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Share this out to all the places that you like to actually share things to. Let all your friends know where you like to hang out, so we can actually get your friends here to actually hold a conversation with you as well. Love you all so very much. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Shtick with Koolfrogg. 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Thank you very much. Later.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.